I think would be, even in Team Mad's occasion, prepare for races like, it is not a 24-hour race, but it's still a very long race nevertheless.
For me personally, it was about 3/4 of an hour of practice yesterday. that's all the practice that I got in before today. Um, it's we're in quite a unique position that we're known for being in a TCR team. I mean, we're racing the 24-hour E series, which Neo, which is again TCR car that we've got
Yeah.
in that championship. So we're known as a bit of a TCR specialist. We do GT racing as well and things like that in the World GT Championship, which you can catch on Motorsport TV on Monday evenings at 8 o'clock. UK time, that is. It's one of those cars where we have that sort of base knowledge. We had a good solid setup to start with. It's looking after its tyres. That's the main thing with this car. It's looking after your front tyres. You can't let them overheat or use them up too early in your stint. Before you know it, you're going to end up with the last 15 laps or so with no front end grip at all. So it's learning how to use that car to use its advantages and disadvantages. I mean, we didn't change rear tyres until after the 6-hour mark. So that tells you how much you're working the rear tyres compared to the front. We're 42%. Arjuna was wondering what the percentage was. 42% on the rears when we changed tyres on the rears after 6 hours.
And that's quite impressive, to say the least, to see the durability out of the car. But also, one thing that helps is, of course, the fact that the track wasn't overly hot. I think we barely see it breaks out from the 30 degrees. But I think, Paul, one other thing, and I know the guys driving the 24-hour series. Do you think this base out of you guys basically could be served as a setup for the 24-hour season? I expect.
Yeah, this is a good test to get some good data and some good running in traffic, see how it is in traffic around here. I mean, I don't race in that series, but I know that Miguel and Chris Wood, who did a stint, do race in that series, so we're just in for our change of driver now. So it's really good to get those laps under his belts, get that data, that base knowledge of the track. It's going to be similar time of day as well in the Neo series, so it's valuable. I think I'm surprised that there aren't more teams that haven't actually jumped at the chance of doing this as a bit of a dress rehearsal for Neo later on in 2 weeks' time.
I think that could be aligned with some other private leagues running concurrently anyway.
Well, there's SEO on at the moment as well, which is
just ended actually.
It's just ended. There you go. So should all be watching this.
Yeah, everybody should be watching the series now moving forward as we go into the tail line. Well, Paul, what are you gonna do now that your sentence is all done? Because I believe Miguel is gonna go all the way to the end.
Well, considering I just told you that Miguel's going to go all the way to the end, yeah, I'm there to sort of help spot for him and keep an eye on traffic, let him know what he's doing lap time wise, where he is, things like that, so that he doesn't have to worry about all of that information. He could just focus on driving. So that's what we're there. We're there to help support him now to the end of the race, and I'm here to keep my audience entertained as well on Twitch. So, it's been a
I was
great.
Gonna mention that
it's been a great stream here. I've been going for over 13 hours. I'm going to be going for about 16 and a bit hours today. So, yeah,
you're
going to be tired.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're kind of becoming a little bit of an dangerous guy because they basically done a 2-day stream a few days ago for charity. So I think you're becoming slowly race pod entrance man.
Well, I mean, I didn't want to mention it, but I just want to say, yeah, we on Sunday and Monday, because we did the World GT Championship coverage as part of my charity streams, I did a little bit of a behind-the-scenes sneak look at what we do on a Racebot broadcast. So if you are interested in that, it is available on the video on demand. But we raised £665 for Hemochromatosis UK, which is a charity which supports people with the condition of hemochromatosis, of which I'm one of them. And basically, it's the opposite to anemia, which is where you've got too little iron in your body. I have too much. It's iron overload, and it can have a massive effect on you if it's left untreated. So, yeah, we raised a tremendous amount of money for Hemochromatosis UK, and again, I thank everybody who joined us on those streams and donated as well. It was great. It was fun. I was spent by the end of it, but there you go. I've got enough for 2 hours 48 to go yet on this race. So, yeah, keep it coming.
I think it totals for about 3 whole days of streams, Paul. So it sounds like Sunday is going to be a nice little sleep for you.
Nah, I'm going to be streaming tomorrow, but it's a different game, so I won't mention it.
We will let you get back to the action then. Thanks for jumping in with us, Paul, and good luck then for the rest of this race.
Take it easy, guys.
So RaceSpot's own Paul Smith, his teammate Jerome Kaiser hands that car over to Miguel Freitas, back out in 6th position. And reminder, you can go ahead and watch with Paul, twitch.tv/SmilerBull. However, you might want to stay with us as well, because 2 hours and 50 minutes still to go. Pit stops imminent in this GT3 class. Pit stops have just cycled through for GT4. So let's go quickly talk about them, Lorenzo. Kind of been ignoring them since the battle's kind of ebbed and flowed. But when the pit stop cycle finished up, that 718 car was about 27 seconds ahead of Pure Sims. Chris Walsh back behind the wheel. Ashley Finch also getting behind the wheel for the 416 car. Gap now is under 22 seconds, and the last time around, it was 0.7 of a second faster for the 416.
Yeah, the 416 actually going really well. Now this is one of those gaps we really want to keep a close eye at, because from what it looks like, they're both going to the straight line, so to the straight finish. So we really want to see how effective can Ashley Finch and Chris Walsh be within your 2.5, maybe 1/4 stint they might have in the field, maybe 2 full, depending on circumstances how long the car goes. But yeah, it's gonna be a nail biter to the finish now between Pure Sims and Porsche.
And Ashley Finch, how many stints for that driver already? Taking a look at the timing sheets for the Porsche Sport team, it's been get Jacob in for a double, I think it was at the start. Chris has basically just been doing singles around Jacob's double. So that gives us an indication for the drive time strategy here is, oh, interesting, split strategies. We talked about the amount of fuel saving that Alex Arana has been doing right behind the Lamborghini. Lamborghini peels its way down onto pit road, Lorenzo. Alex Arana streaks his way down the Kemmel Straight.
Yeah, streaks the way down, and now this is actually becomes a timing battle. Let's see how Alex Arana will be, how fast he will be within this lap specifically, right? Because now it is basically a qualifying lap. And when Arana comes down into pit lane, how much time he can cut across from Luca Macau whenever he comes down comes out of the pit lane.
Question for me is tires. Do they get taken or not? How are the drivers choosing to approach this? Because both of these cars took tires on the first pit stop of the race. Lamborghini into the box, starts getting the fuel. They do get done separately here, so we'll have to wait and see if the car goes up on the jacks at any point here. Halfway through done with the fuel now, Lorenzo. I would be surprised, given the weather conditions, if we saw that car taking tires.
If that car takes one tire, that is already, probably gonna say major loss, in my opinion. So it is full fuel, 30 seconds. Car is nearly done. We should be seeing revving up anytime soon and just going flat out.
Still stationary, still taking on fuel. It's 42 seconds, but no tires. So that's our indication then for the full fuel stop. 42 seconds with 103 total loss in pit road. It is a very long time that you spend trundling all the way down from the bus stop chicane, down the hill, out of La Source, in towards your pit boxes. Lamborghini back up to racing speed then. Where is Alex Arana, and does he come in this lap? Into the bus stop chicane comes the Williams Esports driver. How is he going to set up the corner? He comes into pit road, so here we go. Let's take a look, Lorenzo, at what the delta will be between these two.
Yeah, because it looks like it will be very tight. The problem for Alex right now was the fact that there was a TCR car from Paceworks right at the exit of Coupe Frere that kind of made Alex Arana lift the gas on the exit and might have lost maybe 1, 2, 3 tenths of a second just by lifting off the gas to avoid the TCR crash. And then that might open up the field a little bit for Luke McCown. Let's take a look at it.
We will have to wait and see. Very, very curious then as around La Source, the inside of the corner as it were. Arana now down the hill he goes. Where is the Lamborghini? That is not the Lamborghini, that is for sure. There is the Lamborghini. Coming down in towards Campus Corners, building that momentum up in towards Blanchimont. This is an important corner. This is an important run. This is where the BMW, Lorenzo, you said lost some time.
Yeah, he lost some time, and you see no traffic whatsoever for Luke McCown as just now the Alex Arana come down the pit lane, and now Agustin Canapino, the Argentine, is actually going to come into the car and drive the final 2 stints and a half maybe for the Williams crowd. So it's going to be a very interesting tactic.
So we know now split strategies once more. We thought they had synchronized up the last time they came down onto the lane, but no, Canapino will take tires. You would have to assume getting the driver change underway as well. Here comes now the Lamborghini, who will cycle through back to the net race lead. But I wonder which car is in the prime position here, Lorenzo. If you ask me, it's the Lamborghini.
It looks like the Lamborghini, but look at this. There's Impulse staying right in front of Canapino. That's the thing. The only thing he really doesn't want, a slower car coming down the pit lane. You want a max speed as much as you can. Look at this now. Count is going to get a really good run out of the pit lane.
Disaster, because I thought Canapino would take tires, but no, he takes the risk. He gambles, trying to use the worn rubber that his teammate has been stretching the last 60 minutes. The gap now is up to 2 seconds, and now it is a very interesting fight. What we know for sure then, Lorenzo, the next time they come down onto pit road, they will both take tires, and that will be the last time they change their rubber.
Yeah, that will be the last time they change their rubber, and then it is all about to see who can save that maybe half a second or 1 second of fuel when they come into their final pit lane and then just duel it out on the track. It will be some very interesting 2 hours and 41 minutes as we speak.
So now that this gap has broken up once more, I tell you what, we can cycle through a number of the other cars once more, because there's not really anything within, I'd say, 1.5 seconds at this point in time. And so race leading battles are starting to come into question. Here is the GT4 car that is chasing down the race leader. Gap now is 19 seconds, Lorenzo. So you do get an indication of the pace delta here, but of course Toffs will get back into that car at the conclusion of the stint. We were talking about the Lamborghini being in the prime position. Well, the 718, it's in the prime position here.
It's in the prime position, and looking at the lap done by Ashley Finch, 2:29.3, whereas Chris Walsh 2:34, so on 1 full second down for Ashley Finch. And I'm seeing a trend over here where Ashley can actually reach in the next 12, 13 laps, depending on circumstances, and catch within a very good draft off Chris Walsh.
18.7 now, continuing to come on down. I'm curious to see what will happen then in this category. 2 hours, 40 minutes still to work. They are 6 laps into a stint in the Pure Sims car. Working down through Malmedy in towards Bruxelles is the second place contender. There is a battle starting to develop in fifth on back. You can see the DRE Racing 495 car being chased down by Prism Sim Racing Delta and David Barraclough for the Talk Freak Racing by TFR Lab team. Close in pursuit as well. Left side of your screen, we'll take a look at the GT4 class in closer detail. And you can see, Lorenzo, it's very much a Porsche-dominated class here.
I think we only have in the running maybe 1 or 2 McLarens and 1 BMW. So Again, showing how strong is the Porsche at this current moment in the GT4s.
So GT4's continuing to heat up. TCR, no real battles to speak of. Let's go take a look at the gaps in that class very quickly as well. It is now Mikel G. Garcia who has jumped behind the wheel of the 185 class leading car. Leads by a full lap with the Impulse Racing 222 down a further 43 seconds. And also see Team Mad, they've cycled into 4th. We are waiting for the BM team to come down onto pit road. They owe us a pit stop. Of course, they had a significant damage, from multiple contacts. First up the hill at Eau Rouge and Radion, where they had a slight moment side by side with the Fulsan car. And unfortunately for the BM team, that forced them into the tire wall and found themselves with some damage to work back from. Down onto pit road they come then, and Bartosz Groszczek should be handing that car over to one of his teammates. Other battles that we should be watching out for, not really necessarily for any type of position, but SimRC, Hayden Burns has just come out of pit road. It's about 1.5 seconds or so behind the wheel of Mazepin car. Andres Fernandez now behind the wheel of the multicolored patchwork Lamborghini. And a reminder that racebot.media is where you can head to upload a lot of your liveries for these broadcasts, Lorenzo, because it really is nice, because there's a lot of hard work that gets put in by these teams in terms of getting the paints out there. Yeah,
it does. And some of them, I like the fact they have the RaceBot logo in their cars. So 0.2 of a second faster per lap. So keep it going, boys. We in RaceBot appreciate the support.
Yeah, we talked about the Team Mad car that had a very, very big logo on it at one point in time. And the rear bumper of that, I think it was. Then you have, of course, this SimRC car that also has stickers from RaceBot all over it, but not necessarily as big. No, not trying to say anything necessarily, but I wonder if you just throw some bigger stickers onto that car, you find some pace. We Love Mazepin, they're down onto pit road. And so they drop then into 4th position, Lorenzo. Looks like for some of these cars, they are trying to eat into that fuel window. We were talking about GT3 cars usually pit around the top of the hour, but they're almost 10 hours into this one, and some teams have managed to go about 25 minutes further into the race.
Yeah, which is interesting. You know, I saw Mazepin going 26 laps. I think they're the longest stint so far I've seen in this race. I saw him in average 24, 25 laps. So seeing a team going on longer than that, but they're not going to put any pressure on SimRC unless something happens.
Meanwhile, out front, 2.5 is the gap here. Canapino, Lorenzo, a very strong driver. Usually comes with his own army of fans into our YouTube chat as well, but he's got some work to do now, and you can see there's lap traffic in between him and the Lamborghini that he's chasing down.
Yeah, we can see the work, and so far, gap kind of like stabilized between the 2.2, 2.5 seconds, so it's going to be complicated whenever they come down into the final hours, and if they're stretched out like that, oof, it's going to be a tricky final stint for the Argentine.
And you would have to think that he's going to not take tires now from this point through the rest of the race as well, Lorenzo, right?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, because I think on the field strat, it looks like the BMW looks to be better on field than the Lamborghini does. That turbo V8 car looks to be more buffed up and be better on speed and fuel efficiency than the V10s out of the Lamborghini.
It is great as well, the fact that we've got 3 different manufacturers represented at the top 3 in this GT3 category. The TCR, we're still waiting for additional cars to be added to the iRacing service. BOP and GT4, always a hot button topic. I do have to ask you, Lorenzo, in terms of that McLaren, what are your thoughts on it? You said you haven't necessarily had the chance to drive it, but I'm sure you've been talking to some of the teams and trying to understand what they think of the car as well.
Yeah, we had a few. I had a few talks with some of the guys that are driving that McLaren 750 GT4. The thing is, it looks good on acceleration, but the trickiest part of the car seems to be the braking, because on the straight line it looks like it's more lively, a live car than usual than the M4 and the Porsche 718 to brake, and it doesn't take while braking, while turning. So it's a different car in terms of how you try to drive it.
It is slightly different, but it should be a good addition. Maybe also the indication that iRacing and their great content team continues to find ways to add new cars and new tracks to the iRacing service. It was a very, very busy 2020 for the team. Obviously, everyone got thrown into lockdown, unfortunately, but been working hard. Lots of new ways to build content as well. The Hockenheim Ring, a 3D scan that was actually done by a third-party agency, or company as it were. iRacing purchases the data and then goes to work from there. So just the start maybe of a new wave of GT cars, not just GT3, but GT4 as well. In the meantime, sorry, Lorenzo, go ahead.
I was gonna mention they even had the 1st of April Formula V car, and from what it looks like, that is actual content being released soon. From what it looks like, they got confirmation, because the V looks like to be used in other categories as well.
Ah, so that will be interesting.
Around the world.
And you can see, by the way, DRE Endurance and Prism Sim Racing Delta, they're stacked up once more, heading down into Eau Rouge and Raidillon. This is the battle then for 5th position. Once more, Torque Freak Racing in close pursuit as well. I got a McLaren for lap traffic. That's Sunshine Autos in the number 21 car, the all-white. I'm not sure how they're going to approach this, but helping out the BMW in terms of getting a little bit of a tow, Lorenzo, and that will help the 495. Just build the buffer up as well.
It builds up the buffer. Yeah, they're gonna say thank you very much for that extra boost, you know, and both the BMWs and the Porsche like that draft a little bit. They can actually be more effective, I think, than the 770S GT4 within draft. But what I like most about the Sunshine Autos is the livery. It's a very unique livery that can be a little bit controversial depending on the perspective.
Controversial? Am I looking at a different livery to you, Lorenzo? It's an all-white car.
For me, it looks like they have a Dogecoin livery.
Yeah, no, never mind. Lorenzo's not talking about the stuff that's actually happening on screen. You can see then the lapped car is going to get past as David Barraclough gets on through in the 481 car. That will enable them to chase down the BMW in front of them. 2 hours and 30 minutes still to go here in the season opening round of the 2021 Creventic Endurance Championship. We are live with the 12 hours of Spa, and we've got a very exciting calendar to look forward to. Races at the Hockenheim Ring, at Circuit Barcelona de Catalunya, and to close off the season, we head across the pond to the Sebring International Raceway for what should be an exciting championship finale. And if it's been anything like the racing that we've seen so far today, very much looking forward to 3 more 12-hour races in 2021. Picking up the battle, by the way, for first. But before we do that, we haven't had a RaceBot TV replay, Lorenzo, in a while. I think we've got one now.
Nice.
Spool it up, and oh no, it's the Herbie machine. Please don't tell me bad luck for the number 98. It does definitely... Sorry, Lorenzo, it does look like that car's been a bit through the wars even before this incident.
From what I saw, is that their car had no bonnet at one point of the race. That 53, as they come down out of the Eau Rouge, and like I mentioned, no bonnet after the crash. That's why I was looking at the race chat in here, and they were saying F for the 53 Herbie car.
And that was a big moment coming up the top of the hill. This is lap 210 for them, by the way. So this was not that long ago, and they find themselves back on pit road. We'll jump on board. Let's do this camera angle. I love this little look that you get off the cockpit view. Oh, and a really, really hard impact that into the wall. You can already see suspension is down on the ground and broken. I think that car nursed its way back down onto pit road, Lorenzo. In total spent, I think it was about 3 minutes trying to get repairs. I would suspect day done for Herbie.
Yeah, day done for Herbie, and I wish that car could talk a little bit and see their reactions out of the car. Even if it goes just one beep, we'd appreciate it, but unfortunately, this is not fiction.
Sorry, I was distracted for a second, then I realized what you had just done there, Lorenzo. Bad Lorenzo. Paul Smith somewhere is rolling his eyes at bad puns. He's got to deal with me on Monday night for World GT. Chaz Draycott on commentary duties in Europe this week, so instead I get to fill on in. That will be a lot of fun. More GT3 action as well. It is a very popular form of motorsport at this point in time, Lorenzo. You know, these GT3 cars, one of the biggest forms of customer racing that you have out there as well, and it's going through a bit of a renaissance right now as well.
It's going to, I would say, going through a phase of transformation, because from what it looks like, and I'm looking at the chatter between the drivers in the server, the VoIP, but it's a very interesting scenario we're looking at the GT3s, because we're seeing something similar on the WRC category, where they're transitioning in terms of drivetrains, and some of the cars also transitioning for something more a hybrid as well. So we're seeing that trend that normally we see on Super GT with the Subarus and I think the Toyota Prius they have, and something that is becoming more natural into the mainstream racing, seeing hybrid engines or hybrid drivetrains and things of the nature, and that is, for better or worse, that is actually going to become a trend for the next 2 or 3 years.
You're right, you know, because I was just thinking, who else was... They were doing hybrid testing in the NTT IndyCar series on ovals as well. So technology always marches on forward, and Motorsports tries to keep up and exploit technology where they can.
Also, Arjuna.
Sorry, go ahead.
Can we say that hybrids are coming to NASCAR because they actually got rain tires for Martinsville?
Well, I don't know if hybrids are coming, at least in the next-gen car, but there are a number of improvements, at least in my perspective, in terms of sequential gearboxes and things like that. But in terms of GT4, let's talk about the action on track. We saw
Let's go.
It was, 27 seconds at the start of this cycle. Now down to 14. Pure Sims Esports reeling in the gap and your race leaders. But again, it's hard to get too excited if you ask me here, Lorenzo, because we know Jacob Toft's likely to get back into the 718 Cayman, and he has been very, very rapid today. If you ask me, maybe the fastest car out on track the entire race.
Yeah, it looks like it, but Ashley Finch is giving a run for that money. All laps he hasn't broken in the 30s, and he's been nearly a second faster per lap. Last lap was nearly a full second, was actually 0.7 of a second faster than the Porsche Sport of Chris Walsh. So it is getting closer and closer. I said it maybe 10, 12 laps, I think 6 laps ago. I think that is becoming a reality. If it goes to something like getting 7, 8 tenths, even a second per lap, I think by the end of the stint, Chris Walsh is going to be in a world of hurt and trouble.
He's just gonna minimize the lost gain, and Chris might not appreciate the comparison here, but it's the same thing that makes someone like Ben Keating such a successful racing driver, both as a gentleman racer, but to be honest, as a professional as well, because he's the type of gentleman racer that is just so quick, so consistent that he can be the determining factor. All pro drivers, especially in real full metal motorsports, they're all so talented. There's hundreds, there's tenths between them. When it comes to the gentleman drivers, then you start talking about seconds per lap in terms of consistency. So It's a very different type of a picture. It's all about minimizing the amount of time that you lose relative to your competitors. And if you're Chris Walsh, very similar here. Minimize the time that Pure Sims Esports can catch up to you, because you know you've got a teammate that can set to work and can win this race if you put them in the position they need to be. Top of GT4 closing on up. There's also this little battle for 5th position that we were following along with slightly earlier. Talk Freak Racing have gotten past, so they're up into the 6th spot right now, chasing down Marcelo Mayo in the 495 car. They are reeling in very slightly, by the way, the 4th place position in class here, Lorenzo. That's Zekarol Esports, the Romanian team, and that might be a battle that we have to watch out for in these closing stages.
Could be a very interesting battle moving forward, but then I think I was gonna say maybe there would be a driver swap, but Florian just took over the car from Dendrasea, and there's gonna be some interesting next few. Maybe next it might be the most interesting one in my opinion, because I think they are on different field strategies. I had to reopen AFO and see the live timing for me. But you guys can see at timing 71 all the information better than I do, and see the different strategies those teams have in terms of fuel.
Yeah, great world-class suite of data analysis tools, not just in the virtual, but in Full Metal Motorsports as well. That Porsche has come alive at the hands of David Barraclough. He's going to try and get the move done, I would think, into the bus stop chicane. And not getting the greatest run through Blanchimont. I don't think, actually, he'll take the chance just yet. Wondering when these cars owe us pit stops. Well, 14 laps done for the 481 and the 495. The 18 car behind, just 5 laps less into the stint, so extending these runs slightly longer. And in terms of strategy, if they can keep the pace up, that will be time that they can use at the end of this race. 2 hours, 22 minutes to go, Lorenzo. I want to get your predictions here, because it's slightly unsure as to what's going to happen. We've got interesting fights at the front of the GT3 and GT4 categories now.
Yeah, we do. We do have some interesting battles, and the problem is for the GT3, the pace between Luke McCown and Canapino is going like up and down like a roller coaster. One lap Canapino is faster, the other lap McCown is faster, and the traffic plays out in their favor as we're looking out on a battle between Simtech and Team Matt, as Simtech goes on the inside of Miguel Freitas' one car, and Jordan Weeks might make that move.
So very interesting split strategies here. Jordan Weeks has been out on track for 31 laps on this stint so far, so he does owe us a pit stop. Freitas, of course, is going to take the Team Mad car to the end of this race. Jordan Weeks, that's a name, Lorenzo, that I'm not familiar with in terms of Simtech Motorsports. Familiar with him in
HM Engineering.
Yeah, and HM Engineering, who I do believe are a competitor in the 24H Esports Championship.
Yeah, they are actually. If I recall correctly, I know Jordan knows. It's because here's the thing: I know Simtech from Motherly, so I know kind of personally their drivers, because we competed with them. We kind of have a rivalry in one of my teams. I know Jordan knows a little bit of Sherman Vandersloot and Shane Burke, which are. I know Shane is the manager, so I'm not surprised to see a top-level driver in Jordan Weeks driving for them.
Well, I was right. Jordan Weeks is a participant in the 24H Esports Championship. However, in the 911 Cup class, Lorenzo, so not really sure what he's going to be learning here, because, let's be honest, TCR and the 911 Cup car, almost nothing in common.
Yeah, and one car is rear engine, rear wheel drive, has much more race horsepower, brake horsepower. The other one is front wheel drive, is a boat. Sorry, Paul, I have to say it. And he wastes the front tire like crazy, and has a different way to driving. So it's a very interesting scenario where Jordan Weeks is kind of pitched in right now. But then again, I know Jordan knows the Sherwin and Shane, so I wouldn't be surprised if the invite was made kind of like either last minute or not, and see a top level driver driving for them.
Just a bit of fun, I guess, then for Jordan in this TCR category. Let's get your predictions then, Lorenzo, before it gets too close to a pit stop cycle once more. Yep. Let's start with GT3. Who do you think is going to win in this battle between Altus Esports and Williams Esports here?
All right, I don't want to jinx because I already jinxed the fellow Brazilians of Energy and SCO of sorts. But knock on the wood, I think Altus is going to take this one. It's going to be close though, really close, but they might be able to take this to the end.
So let's just make sure. I'm going to give you one final chance to change your mind here. You're going with Altus.
I'm going with Altus, and Bo Albert can hunt me down later. Or even Simon Feigl also can hunt me down later. Even though we're like 1,000 miles apart.
They will be very, very happy that you picked them. Don't worry. They'll just be hoping that you don't put the commentator's curse down on them. That one is for sure. In terms of GT4, that battle now has gapped down to an incredible 9 seconds. It is seconds per lap that Ashley Finch eats out of the 718 that leads in class. I'll put you on the spot here, Lorenzo. I think I know what your answer is going to be in this class.
I'll let you pick up the spot because I'm going to play a little bit of the villain over here because I know we have Peter Mackay, which is close to Motorsport, but I might say Pure Sims might take this one, and same thing. It will be up to Jacob Tops to see how well Kenny does in this stint, and how fast does Ashley Finch, and how aggressive does he want to win at the end of the race.
I thought it was going to be a pretty obvious answer, to be honest. I'm knocking on wood. I am definitely knocking on wood. I feel pretty good about the Porsche Sports chances right now. Yes, that gap continues to get eaten away by Ashley Finch at this point in the run, but throw Toffs behind the wheel, you'll see the pace delivered once more. Not even going to bother asking Lorenzo about TCR because
we can make some predictions.
Okay, I tell you what. Why don't you get a freebie then, Lorenzo? Why don't you predict the TCR class?
I think Full Send is gonna Full Send into a win. I'm just kidding. I'm actually gonna do a prediction on top 3. I think that is where the battle. I think it is going to be closest to the end of the race. I think Team Mad might be able to take 3rd place from Simtech, even though the strategies seems to be a little bit apart from one another.
Well, we have to do the math here, Lorenzo, because I'm not sure if the Simtech strategy is better or if the Team Mad strategy is better here, because, of course, now they are effectively, I would assume, 33 laps on the stint so far for Jordan Weeks. He's a couple of laps away from coming onto pit road. Still would need an additional pit stop to the end, right? If not 2.
It is 1 confirmed because the car goes nearly for 1.5 hours. Both cars need 1 extra pit stop. It's just on the matter of, does Miguel needs a splash and dash like Jordan might need?
So what we're saying, if Miguel can get to the about 90-minute mark without coming down onto pit road and can make sure his final stop is then and do as much fuel saving as he can, he will likely be safe in terms of the fuel, right? Now, in terms of the Simtech car in front of him, he'll come down onto pit road. No matter how much fuel saving he does, it will still be about 30 minutes of fuel required in that splash and dash.
Yeah, it is. I think it comes down on whenever Miguel does his pit stop, how effective can Jordan Weeks become in his car and goes to the finish. But then again, I think Jordan is on a full... I don't know if he's actually going to hand the car to Shane Burke. And if he hands out, how fast can the other guy in Simtech can be?
Well, I'm just looking through the lap charts as well. There was a moment around lap 108 when Jordan Weeks tried to get behind the wheel of the car and then actually had to come back down onto pit road about 7 laps into the stint, handed the car back over to Shane Burke. I doubt that was strategically planned. Sounds like potentially some hardware failure, Lorenzo. Maybe they're scrambling now in terms of the strategy, trying to recover to whatever unfolded. Oh, Lorenzo, there's been a crash for Talk Freak Racing coming through last source. before we get to that point, let's quickly take a look at this replay because it was a lot of action that was going on here. And let's take a look down into turn 1, trying to get past DRE.
And they come into the inside part of the lane, then it looks like it was all by themselves. I'm looking at on my side. No, there is a slight assistance from Prism and from a DRE Endurance, but nothing that is on the fault of Marcelo Mayo. He just kept his line, and I think Barracloud just veered into them, and the tires touched.
I think you get a good look at that angle that we saw, that aerial look that the rear end was already loose even before. Yes, there's a small touch, but a car was already pointed in the wrong direction by the time the power was getting applied. Back to live pictures we will jump because Simtech Motorsports down on pit road. Jordan Weeks is getting a fresh tank of fuel. I wonder if he's going to get a fresh set of rubber as well. No driver change, though, appears to be underway, Lorenzo.
Yeah, they're certainly going to get a fresh rubber. I don't know if it's going to be the full 4 tires. And Steam Ledger is saying, like, they are owed an extra pit stop. I think we kind of know that already. But the thing is, how much of a pit stop it is in terms of fuel efficiency. Because from what it looks like, again, they can run up to 1 hour and a half, a full stint, roughly, more or less. So I think they might be owed 70% of a stint whenever they come down into the pit lane. But then I'm doing head mathematics right now.
That doesn't sound right. It sounds like more like 50%, right? Because if they're doing 90-minute stints, give or take 45 minutes when he next comes into the box.
Yeah.
So it will be about 50% in terms of fuel, but I have a feeling that was not necessarily the intended strategy. It is just the way that things have played out for the Simtech team. Let's see what they can do to try and push to the end. Back to that battle for 5th position in the GT4 class because, well, just because Torque Freak Racing are no longer involved in it does not mean that Prism Sim Racing does not want to get on past the Turner Motorsport liveried car in front then, Lorenzo.
No, absolutely not. And it's all a matter of to see if that Porsche 718 Club Sport GT4, how pacey does he want to be, and how much benefit he can get from the traffic alone. Because looking at it right now at this perspective, he might catch, I think that's the Frozen Speed car, the lead TCR, right at the exit of Camille into Lecue. Yeah, no time lost whatsoever. Actually got close a little bit.
By the way, just a good point by Steam Ledger in the YouTube chat. Because pit road is so long here, you have to go all the way down from the bus stop chicane, down the hill through in towards Eau Rouge and Radion, and finally get off the limiter as cars are basically reaching the peak entry speed into that corner. Splash and dash. Well, it's not so much a splash and dash. It's a splash and crawl around pit lane for as long as you have to, Lorenzo.
Yeah, I think Steam makes a really good point, a really valid point. They came out in 8th place, and they're being lapped by some of the other cars. I think that is they got overlapped by Alpine Energy.
Oh, contact between the Prism car and the DRE car, down into the Piff Paff chicane, slightly inevitable. I saw the move and I saw the impatientness from the number 18 car, and we've got a RaceBot TV replay to take a look at, Lorenzo. Take a look at this aerial, look at it, and you'll see it's a very late move, trying to just get as deep under the brakes as they can, and don't really get to the inside of the corner.
Yeah, not making it into the corner whatsoever. Trying to go for a small lunge and try to stay side by side into the pit path, but unfortunately, Marcelo Mayo had the corner covered already, and the driver out of Alexander Rustenmeyer, just trying to keep it into his lane. The crash was eventually going to happen. It was inevitable. Luckily for them, there is no live stewarding. What happened is they have that 4x contact, and then again, it is that 5 for the 50x or whatever incident points you already have at this point of the race, and then possibly get a drive-through.
Yeah, it's been a while since the drive-through happened. I think the most recent one was for the Sunshine's Autos number 21 car. They are 6 laps down from the GT4 race leader, but still out there in the true spirit of endurance racing. 10 minutes away from the top of another hour. We are almost 10 hours complete with the season opener of the Creventic Endurance Series. We have a couple of interesting races to come up as well. The next two, Lorenzo. First we head to the Hockenheim Ring, and then we head to the circuit Barcelona-Catalunya. Both tracks where, how do we put this nicely? The last sector is very tight, very twisty, and multi-class racing, it is going to be an interesting challenge for the drivers.
Absolutely. I think it will be more... I'm going to be more bold, and I'm going to say that Catalunya might be more of a scrappy race than Hockenheim is, because you can make some good moves. I think the only dangerous part of the track for maneuvering will be the arena. It will be either the arena and the start-finish section, because turn 1 is basically a 90-degree right-hand pinch turn, and it can get a little bit scrappy in there. But Catalunya, the second half of the track, you can easily get entangled in so many overlappings and confusions that we saw that in the 24-hour series and even either other leagues, how confusing it can be for traffic.
Yeah, I'm a bit scared about the possibility of a TCR car, for example, trying to avoid a couple of the faster class cars trying to make their way through the arena, but it will be the challenge that teams have to face at the end of June. We've got a little bit of a delay and a hold in terms of our competition schedule. We won't have another one of these races for a couple of months. Then at the end of June, of course, the 12 hours at Hockenheim. Then at the end of August, it will be the 12 hours of Barcelona, and then to wrap it off in the third week of October, we head to the Sebring International Raceway for the 12 hours of bumpiness, as they will forever be known. When the Creventic Series used to come to this side of the pond, they went to the circuit of the Americas for their 24-hour races there. A very different type of a track.
Was a season closer, if I recall correctly, right?
Yes, I think a few times it was a season closer. They also had, I think, a interesting format at one point where they ran 3 races on one weekend all at COTA. But Sebring versus COTA, very different types of tracks. And based on what we saw last week in the 12 hours of Sebring on the iRacing.com service, that should be a very fun battle.
It should be a very fun battle. That was the first track of the IMSA Pilot Challenge season, where we saw the TCRs and the GT4s going at it. And we saw, at back then, a little bit of the dominance of the Porsche. Of course, the BOP happened and kind of brought up the field into equalish grounds, but still the Porsche still retains slight domination. But Sebring will be part of Season 3 of iRacing, so there will be a BOP, most definitely, for some of the cars. And so we might see some tweaks in the GT4 field that might bring an equal level between all 3 cars all around the field.
I think we've got a replay to take a look at. And it's unfortunately for it's Torque Freak Racing, already without the front bonnet on the 718 Cayman. Oh, the rear end's already loose coming up the hill at Eau Rouge and Radion. And that's a rather big incident into the tire barrier. Also into the exit of pit road. Very fortunate that no car was trying to exit pit lane, as David Barraclough has to find a point to reset back onto track. In fact, I think he tries to keep that car going, but you can see Lorenzo, a significant suspension damage, has to pull to the right-hand side of the track. He's back down on pit road.
Yeah, back down on pit road already, nearly a full minute, and the car is basically retired. I can see, I already saw David Barraclough out of the car, and at this point of the race, it's race over for the Torque Freak. That's unfortunate.
That's a big contact as well. Fortunately, no new damage model in effect today, Lorenzo. I think some of these cars would be looking a lot worse for wear without various body parts and various aerodynamic elements as well.
Yeah, there would have, if the new damage model was actually implemented, that would have been possibly a flying wing, a flying door, 3 flying tires, 2 flying side mirrors, maybe the driver flying himself with the Hans device and even the seatbelt as well. And I'm just kidding. No, they're not that extreme, but there would have been some damage in that car, to say the least.
Well, you say your drivers go flying and stuff. iRacing, of course, in constant evolution. Most recently, head shake on various drivers in the Dallara open wheel cars. So something you can catch on a Monday evening in our official iRacing IndyCar Open Championship coverage.
With us?
With us as well, me and Lorenzo. So where do we head this week, Lorenzo? To somewhere that I'm quite scared about, the streets of Long Beach.
Yeah, let's not think about that race yet because I don't want trauma.
Long Beach, of course, one of the newest additions to the iRacing service. For years, the staff members said it was a very hard project to actually bring to reality, to complete all of the 3D assets that were required for it, but in the only way iRacing knows how, they did it quietly, and once it was ready for release, they debuted it with a bang. And it is a very, very interesting addition to the iRacing service. They go 3 wide across the start-finish line as the race leader tries to get on past. That's Pure Sims Esports and Team Mad, so 2 cars on podium positions in their respective classes. Just an indication, Lorenzo, of how competitive this field has been. 1.6 seconds, that separates your GT3 race leaders.
Oh, and Canapino just getting massively blocked by Pure Sims GT4 on the entry of Radiano Rouge Complex. I know Luke McCann is going to say thank you very much because when he came into the source, gap was about 1.6 seconds. Just because of the Radiano Complex, or Rouge Complex alone, gap stretched down to nearly 2.5 seconds.
The traffic giveth and the traffic taketh, Lorenzo. It can swing so quickly, can't it?
Yeah, it swings so quickly. Blink of an eye, like snap of a finger. So, especially some of the turns that demands some downforce out of the cars, like the Radiano Rouge Complex. You really don't want to go side by side or into some of the cars. Leave that for some higher speed, like the IR01 or a car that is similar to that, and pray that you guys do not kill yourselves in the process. One thing we can actually take a look at on the frame, or unfortunately we cannot see in the rear view mirror or that Pure Sims, but we can actually slightly look at the frame. The Porsche Sport car is coming close and close.
It's the other way around. It's that the Porsche Sport car is getting reeled in by Pure Sims and Ashley Finch. 3.6 seconds is the gap now. It is come down from an incredible 27 at the start of the stint to just 3.6. Up the hill they climb in towards Blanchimont, and Ashley Finch is on a mission right now. And Chris Walsh, once more, let's emphasize this, Lorenzo. He's just got to get to the end of the stint now. Keep the time loss as small as he can, because Jacob Toffs will get back behind the wheel, and he will really set himself loose.
Yeah, he will let himself loose, and then will become a head-to-head battle between 2 very fast drivers. I think Finchy is going to come all the way down into the end of the race and try to finish the car for the 416 and then the 718. Good number, by the way, for those who haven't caught up already with the reference of the Club Sport 718 car for Porsche Sport.
I mentioned it quite a bit in the first opening stint of the race, but kind of since then I've just been calling it the 718 Porsche Sport car, because guess what? It sounds a lot easier that way than trying to make funny puns all the time. 3.2 though is the gap. Up the hill we ride on board with the 416 car. You can see just how bumpy that ride is for this GT4 class in comparison to the much stiffer and much more lower sprung GT3 machines in towards Le Combe for Ashley Finch as well. Gap now below 3 seconds as well. I think, you know what, Lorenzo, this pass will happen before the driver change happens in these 2 cars. And now Jacob Toffs might have to pass for this race lead once more.
Yeah, it does, but then again, this is the problem of of the sim racing world, that I have to restart the live timing app for me here and for my FO, so I don't have the full rundown of the laps. But if it is towards the tail end of Ashley Finch, we've seen the trend of Pure Sims pitting first. So it will follow that trend. They will have to pit first. But then again, it comes down to a battle of if Finch comes first, how much of a gap does he build against possibly Jacob Tufts taking over the car for Motorsport?
Well, of course, between the two of them, you can head on over to racebot.wtf/24 for live timing and scoring, powered by timing71.org. It's 1 lap difference. The Pure Sims car will come down onto pit road slightly earlier. And with the clock having ticked over into the final 2 hours of this race, a sun continues to set. It is just about to tick over into 8 p.m. in the virtual Spa-Francorchamps, and we will well and truly be racing under night conditions come the end of this race, Lorenzo. The good news here is we started, of course, with 50 cars taking to the green flag. At this point in time, only 32 cars still out there circulating. It makes things slightly easier in the confusion that the headlights can sometimes cause in the nighttime conditions.
Yeah, it does. You know, it brings up a different element of confusion, especially with the blinking headlights that some people love to use, right? Let's use push to talk and you activate the headlights like it's fireworks, and it makes the driving confusing. Even though it is illegal, it isn't anti-ethical for you to use that, but it creates a whole different dimension into the race. Absolutely.
Of course, Pure Sims will be in action in a couple of weeks' time from this track as well. The 24-hour Esports Championship, powered by Neo Endurance in association with VCO as well. The final round, 12 hours of action at Spa. It's been a busy period for VCO. They're always busy, let's be honest. They've got multiple events in action today, not just here, but in other simulators as well. And they've just wrapped up the VCO Pro Sim Championship. Maximilian Benecke taking home the Fun Race Championship, and along with it, a Sifat simulation system. Joshua Rogers winning the Sim Racing Championship in the main race itself. Won some cash prizes as well as a trophy, and his teammate Ayan-Chan Guven won the Pro Racers Championship. It was a very busy day for Guven, testing a Porsche 911 Cup car in the real world, then driving all the way to the Coanda team house to claim that championship alongside his teammate. There's a very nice picture of the two of them on social media as well. But now, this gap, 1.1 seconds, Lorenzo. All that Chris Walsh has to do here is not panic.
Don't panic at all, and just just drive your line. Stay confident. You know, you still have P2. You're still keeping Pure Sims honest because they are pushing. They want the win and they are pushing to try to get that win. So that's why you're keeping them honest, and this is why this is a good race. And then whenever Jacob comes in, he does the job. You know, just go. You have no concerns whatsoever with traffic and all, and now you guys can go for a head-to-head battle to see who wins. But Chris Walsh, despite not being as fast as Jacob Tufts, is doing an amazing job.
It's about consistency, isn't it? It's about lap in, lap out.
Absolutely.
How close to your lap times and your peak lap times can you really get? And then how good can you manage traffic? How well can you manage the tires? There's so many different factors that come into this one, as well as lights being flashed right now. 1 second is the delta between the two cars at the front of GT4. Down the hill they plunge in through Eau Rouge and Radion. I have a feeling Ashley Finch wants to get the move done in the next 6 kilometers or so, Lorenzo, because working lap 24 of the stint, they are due for a pit stop any moment now.
Yeah. Question is, if you're Chris Walsh, do you defend?
If you're asking me, no.
Yeah, that was actually a question, an honest-to-God question, because you really want to, try to throw away a possible win at the very latter portions of your stint. Even if you go for a one-time defense move in the Castle Straight or even at the bus stop, do you try to put that pressure on Ashley Finch and see, I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying to conserve as much of my car, but I'm trying I'm gonna be a little bit defensive and make you think twice about a move.
Let's see what the approach is. Out of Pujon, they work in towards the Piff Paff chicane. I do think, if I've done the math correctly, which, as those viewers who are familiar with RaceSpot TV will know, is not very often in terms of strategy calls, I do think Pearson's down onto pit road either this lap or after 7 more kilometers. Out of campus then, run down into Curve Paul Frere. Already you can see Pearson's much more confident in terms of rolling momentum through the corner. Should get the move done in towards Blanchimont. Don't know if you want to go side by side here. Pearson's is thinking about it though. Pulling out to the outside, and slight squeeze there from Chris Walsh. Not too aggressive, just trying to make sure that he can get into the corner as well. Lamborghini will help him. Let's see what happens then in terms of pit strategy here, Lorenzo.
Yeah, let's take a look at it, because it is going to be close, and both cars staying for one more lap. That was, I think, the 111 car of the RSR by G Performance making the overlap, and now there is clear traffic for both cars. There is no imminent GT3 cars to make any overlaps, or TCRs ahead out of them to make any overlaps for the GT4s.
Little poke to the inside in towards Eau Rouge. Great aerial shot as the cars climb up the hill, trying to wrestle as much momentum as they can from their 718 Caymans. In the draft, though, it is Ashley Finch. He's going to try and get past in towards the Lacombe chicane. Chris Walsh does defend the inside. Will he defend under braking as well? No, he's going to give up the position. Very smartly will concede here. And he should hand his car over to his teammate, Dan Lorenzo, in the next couple of laps as well.
Yeah, should have. And again, from what we're seeing on the perspective of strategies, Motorsport has gone a lap longer than Pearson in terms of fuel, even they were close to one another through the majority of the stint. So we're probably going to see the first shot fire by Pearsons when they come down into pit lane, maybe in the next lap, or in this lap even,
Gap
as you were saying.
Gap already up to 1.1 as well, so you can see definite pace delta between the two cars. The Alpine Energy, a number 9 car, does help out the advances of Porsche Sport at this time. We will stick on this battle, though, and see what the strategy looks like. Working lap 25 is Ashley Finch. Working lap 24 is Chris Walsh in behind. Pit stops also imminent, by the way, in GT3. Gap between Altus Esports and Williams is 1.3. Lap 23 and 22 respectively. So reaching that point where you get down into these final couple of pit stops, there's last chances to make sure you don't make mistakes on entry and exit. You get into your box as quickly as you can. You make sure you don't speed in pit road, as Alpine Energy did very, very early on in this race, because Lorenzo, there is nothing worse than getting to the end of a race like this where you have fought so hard and giving up positions with a mistake like that. Pure Sims Esports still out there on track. Looks like they're able to extend a bit further than I expected.
Damn, I'm quite surprised you're extending one more lap. I think the green light was called from Pearson's. Oh, are you okay, Ashley, on fuel to go on lap extra? And is that, yeah, I have 1.1 or 1.2 extra of fuel. So they're going to maybe push one more lap, try to extend as much as they can that lead. And when Jacob comes into the car, it puts the pressure down on Porsche Sport to see if Jacob Tufts can actually be efficient on his final 1-2 stints and then go for the win.
So for the record, I think I was about one lap off in terms of my estimates. I think that Pure Sims car is down onto the road this time around, I'm taking a look at, of course, the wonderful data analysis tools provided by our partners at timing71.org. You can head over there through racebot.wtf/24. And last time around for the Pure Sims car, it was a 26-lap stint. We're seeing similar kind of stints from Jacob Toffs in behind as well last time around. So do expect potentially this time, because as we get further into these runs, Lorenzo, temperatures continuing to drop. fuel efficiency, that tends to drop as well.
Yeah, fuel efficiency tends to drop. Tire degradation also drops off a little bit, so you can run faster, more consistent, and with less wear in the car, even though you still have those heavy braking zones or some of the tire killer turns like Bouron and Stavolo and Curve Pro Fair of sorts. So it's a very interesting final 1 hour and 49 minutes, because I think there will be some interesting shenanigan strategies maybe in the GT3 side, because both cars have been able, I think, to save a slight amount of fuel, but I think Williams have been more efficient towards this final portion while closing the gap a little bit.
Yeah, gap is down now to 1.8. It's been coming and going as the traffic plays its part in this portion of the race. Pure Sims, am I right? Do they come down this time around? Yes. Okay, I'm punching the air, Lorenzo. I was only one lap. Only one lap off in the strategy. Of course, Chris Walsh is also coming down, so they're going to equalize in terms of the strategy, but it's more about the pace, getting tossed back into the car, Lorenzo, for the last hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah, and then becomes a head-to-head battle between Ashley Finch, and Jacob Tuft. This is going to be basically a 2-hour sprint. It is basically a IMSA Pilot Challenge times 2.5 of sorts, and let them decide who comes out on top. It's going to be great.
So I tell you what, while they trundle down pit road, let's take this opportunity to jump on board with the net race leader and take a quick RaceSpot TV fan immersion. He owes us a pit stop in a couple of laps' time, and we'll be right back with continued coverage here live from the circuit, Spa-Francorchamps. We are back from RaceSpot TV fan immersion. Very, very quick there because, well, drama for your race leader and the pole position sitter as well. Luke McKeown for the Altus Esports team has had a rather big issue. Let's pull up the replay and take a look at what happened. Coming down in towards the bus stop chicane right behind Yuri Jurg for the Ava Vervatic team. Looks all fine under braking. Oh, the Porsche rather misjudged the corner there and rather messed things up, if you will, Lorenzo. We'll take one more look at this. It's big implications then on this race. Absolutely
big implication in this race as we're not looking at the replay. They're both doing the bus out at the same time, and I think Ava Vervatic caught up by surprise with the Lamborghini of Luke McKeown, just cutting across them on the line. Now we're looking with aerial pictures, the move by Luke McKeown. He goes for a deep lunge, and he kind of blinked the headlights, and you can see the Lamborghini just cutting across. And right behind them, there's the Williams BMW having to basically cut the corner of the bus stop to avoid a crash with the two Porsche 718s.
And straight down onto pit road for the Australians. That is disaster, but they've been stationary now for about 120 seconds. We rejoin live coverage. As you see, on pit road in their box are the Australians. Here comes Agustin Canapino for his scheduled pit stop, Lorenzo. And now the complexion of this race has completely changed.
It has completely changed because right now, Canapino basically has half a lap of leadership to the CMRC car. CMRC just came out of the pit lane. If it goes for 1 minute and 43 seconds or 45 seconds, as we expect to be, the gap he has to CMRC is basically a whole track and then something extra. And Logitech, race is over. I don't think they're going to continue. I wouldn't.
That is a big, big disappointment then for a team oh so strong. I think, for Williams, they enjoy the battles. They would have loved a victory and to take it in style, Lorenzo. But now it's about just cruising home for the next hour and 40 minutes, give or take. Canapino will now probably take tires and make sure there are no risks in terms of getting that car to the end. It's a very healthy gap to CMRC, and there you see indeed up on the jacks, and Canapino takes 4 fresh tires.
Yeah, and he can take as much fresh tires. He can even grab a coffee if he wants to after the end of this pit, because he's not in danger of losing the position to CMRC. CMRC is just on Stavolo, so the gap is huge. I think around 40 to 50 seconds between one car to the other as Canapino just comes out of the pit lane. So we can see the full margin between both cars. But then again, Mazepin now is promoted to 3rd place.
Yeah, the We Are Mazepin team now inherits the podium position as a result of the Altus Esports team's misfortune. Very, very disappointing way for their race to come to an end. And indeed does look as though they will be done in today's action. 4 minutes already stationary getting repairs, including the minute they spent trundling down pit road trying to get back into their box, has robbed us of a rather interesting fight to the end. So GT3 then, maybe not going to be as close as we wanted, Lorenzo. It means full focus on GT4 and Pure Sims versus Porsche Sport.
Yeah, Porsche Sport and Pure Sims is going to be a great battle from what it looks like. Actually, Finch is making Jacob Toft push that car to the very brim of it. Jacob just did a 28.7, and in the previous lap, not this one, Finch did a 28.7. So they're basically trading laps on the traffic alone. Interesting battle.
And I'm going to enjoy this one because I think 1.1 as Toft clears the TCR machine at the bottom of the hill. I don't think Ashley Finch was able to clear that McLaren as easily. Gap is 1 second. Lights are flashing. And this is going to be the fastest GT4 driver we've seen today trying to get back the race lead that he has enjoyed for oh so long. He looks to the inside of Sunshine Autos. There's almost contact between the two of them, but Bob Poplet realized that that was a battle for the race lead, got out of the way as quickly as he can. And my, that was a moment, Lorenzo, where for Jacob Toffs, you could see how much this race means to him.
Yeah, you can see how aggressive he is, you know, just picking those aggressive line going once again. It reminds a little bit of the battle between Williams and Altus of sorts. You know, they were aggressive in some of the overlaps they were doing, basically cutting across marginal gaps to other cars. But that's what makes sim racing and racing in general so exciting.
Oh, it looks like. What's happened to We Are Mazepin? Have they gone for a bit of a spin? Terrible pun. I am by no means Chaz Dracott. That is not a replay. This is the replay. In through Lecombe. Interesting incident there.
I know it happened.
I wonder if there was a potential hardware failure there, Lorenzo.
I think that was a slowdown. Because here's the thing. If you get the second part of Lecombes way too deep, and I think that's what happened. You get basically a 0.8 of a second slowdown or something of the nature, and that's what made Andres Fernandez slow down.
I don't know, Lorenzo. I'm looking now at this roof.
It's getting it close.
Well, okay, the inside on the right, there's no issue here. On the left, I don't think there's a slowdown in that situation, unless you cut it a lot more. You know what he's done? He's hit the pit limiter. He's accidentally hit the pit limiter. Let's go on to that visor cam that Tyler has wonderfully designed for us here, Lorenzo, and let's take a look at this one. Coming through the corner, just maybe a slight mistouch of the steering wheel, maybe two buttons slightly too close together. You'll see third gear here, pit limiter is active.
Yeah, and they are into the pit lane right now, so is that a fuel-saving efficiency strategy? Well, like full Haas engine fuel-saving mode?
Well, okay, I was going to say, I'm not sure if maybe a cat had stepped on his keyboard or something and suddenly he was stuck in pit lane mode. He was able to get back up to speed, but you are right. That car has come down onto pit road. I am curious as to what's going to happen with Adrian Fernandez here. Excuse me, Andres Fernandez.
Yeah, Andres Fernandez is into the pit lane right now. Lost the position to V3 Racing, and because they're still due into a pit lane, they might lose to Relay because Andres Lecombe is just passing to the start-finish line air quotes on the endurance layout, and just gone into P4. And now Iago Rosado is going to take over for the We Love Mazepin. And if that is a fuel-saving strategy, that is the first I've ever seen engage the pit limiter.
Sorry, no,
I know it's not.
No, I'm putting my foot down. There is no way that is a fuel-saving strategy. If it's a fuel-saving strategy, it might be either the biggest big-brain move I've ever heard of, or just outright dumb. I'm willing to put money on the latter in this case. The thing is, Lorenzo, I think people maybe don't understand. There are so many different configurations you can have of steering wheels, right? You've got your base Logitech G27s, which has just got 6 buttons on them, rather close together as well. Then you've got, you know, the full-blown setups where you see Max Verstappen, he's got direct drive with a, you know, full-blown custom steering wheel with a screen and about 50,000 different buttons as well. You just hit the wrong one, and it can happen like that. And you know, very fortunately, I don't think I can actually remember that happening to me in a race.
I have a G27, so I'm safe in that regard. But all right, I was gonna actually go for more fuel strategy conspiracies and try to bring up Quirk into this because his guys love to go into his racing rig, but unfortunately, it's not the case. As now we're looking into this battle because Jacob Tufts again putting the work lap after lap after lap, not breaking away from the 28 highs.
And you can see 6/10 is the gap right now. That's the E41 TCR machine that splits the two cars for now. Oh, very close for Tofts as he tries to use as much of the draft as possible. You can see using as much of the engine range as well, as now into 6th gear, climbing up through 6,500 RPM in towards the braking zone at the end of the Camel Straight. Gap is 9/10 of a second. What did you call Finchy? Was it Finchy earlier there, Lorenzo? Finchy?
I call Finchy, yeah.
I like it. It definitely suits. Finchy has been doing a rather good job since he came out of pit road, because despite the fact that Toffs has been very, very quick, he's used the traffic in the right way, Lorenzo.
Yeah, he's using the traffic the right way. It broke off a little bit. I think it broke them off by 0.3 of a second whenever Tufts came into the entry of the Camel Straight and got a little bit of an second wind as they head down into Pujon. But the problem is right now, there is no traffic. There is no GT3s. The only GT3 that is coming up, I think, is right about a second-ish of the Porsche Sport. And if it actually reaches, it will be right around the exit of Pro Frere. So you might break off a little bit, both cars, depending where it exit and how close it is.
Well, I think people don't necessarily understand as well that there is a skill in terms of being lap traffic and facilitating moves and knowing when to block off moves as well. And it's not just in terms of where on the track is the right place and in terms of positioning and where you need to be at various points to do certain things. It's about knowing which cars to trust, which cars over the course of the previous 11 hours have treated you the right way, shown that the decision-making is something that you will rely on when a win is on the line at the final stages of the race. So sometimes you'll be a little bit more aggressive. You'll be sometimes a lot more tentative if you see someone in your rearview mirror who's already turned you around a couple of times. But I think in the case of Ashley Finch, our main job, at least for now, is to, at the very least, hold up Jacob Toffs. And if the move does happen, Lorenzo, don't make life easy. Hang on, put the pressure on, and make sure that it's not going to be as simple as it was earlier for Jacob Toffs to pull away from this battle for the lead.
I agree. Make the guy work, Put the pressure on the other guy to try to, make the mistake while overtaking, and then him getting penalized by overtaking. But I think there's something that might work for Jacob right now, because he has a BMW, has a little bit of a drag, gets closer, and Ashley Finch will get that BMW overlapping him into the entry of Lecombs.
And they are now nose to tail. It's tenths of a second separating these two cars. 90 minutes left to work as well. Unfortunately, out of the 50 cars that took to the green flag, we are now down to just 31 runners out on track. Latest retiree, unfortunately, Altus Esports. They've been stationary taking repairs for about 13 minutes, so I think fair to assume day done for the Australians. Very, very disappointed as well, Lorenzo, because what was a busy day for a lot of the big teams in a private endurance championship, it was great to see Williams, SimRC, and the Logitech G Altus Esports team show up for this first round of the Creventic Endurance Championship. Yes, we get to see lots of the new faces as well, but a benchmark in terms of the established names that everyone has to live up to here.
Yeah, it shows how deep of a lineup some of these teams can have, and how much of many good drivers they can have, pushing each other out every single race whatsoever, as they get lapped by Kiefer McKenna in the V3 racing. But again, seeing Pure Sims, MRC, Logitech, Williams also with the lineups coming in really strong and performing well. Unfortunate for Altus to be out of the race this late in the outing, but still, it shows up how dynamic and how efficient and how well some of these teams can have their lineup set up for some of these races.
In the case of Williams, I mean, I think running two cars in that private league as well, so you talk about the depth in numbers, it also means depth in...
One. They have one.
Is it one? I thought they had two Corvettes.
The second, one of the Corvettes actually got disqualified. We're missing round 2 and 3.
Gotcha.
And eventually got replaced by another car.
So, only one Corvette there, but nevertheless, in terms of having resources, not just for putting cars out on track for races, but also preparation and accumulating data and all of those kind of things, especially when it comes down to your strategy, for example, you just need manpower and the willingness to put the effort in. Finchy, by the way, still holds off 0.7 of a second, the gap between these two cars. He is not making life easy for Jacob Toft, and as the sun continues to set here, Lorenzo, I wonder if Pure Sims have set this car up for the dead of night.
I'm interested to see that as well, but from the overall perspective of things, right now track is at 22 degrees Celsius. Ambient temperature is at 21. Ambient actually kind of stabilized at 21 for the past 2 hours, nearly 3 hours of this race, whereas the track temperature has gone down slightly, and I don't know if we're going to be able to see 18 degrees like we sometimes see in the 24-hour race of Spa, but it's going to be cold nevertheless, and it has been slightly cold the entirety of this race. So double stints have been kind of a standard for the majority of the cars.
Cold by iRacing standards. I'd say moderate to warm by Belgian standards, especially for early April, which we are racing in. Watching GT4 action, scrolling my eye up and down the timing screen. There really isn't much on-track activity right now in terms of battles, Lorenzo. So it's at that point of the race where we talk about mental and physical fatigue actually being something that drivers have to worry about in sim racing. It has been something that I think has caught some of these teams out as well.
Yeah, because 12-hour races, you have the majority. We were talking about this, either pairs or triples driving in between some of those teams. Like, for example, we know that the Williams is running in a pair of Agustin Canapino and Alex Arana. It's basically the standard lineup for that Chill Blast car. Even we're gonna see even that at the Nürburgring 24 if they race is Arana, Canapino, and usually someone else driving the Williams car. It doesn't go after more than that, and we saw Altus doing the pair as well. So for 12-hour races, that's usually the standard. But then at the later portions, you're hitting the nail on the head. You get tired, and you usually are more prone to make mistakes. I don't want to call Luke McCown's crash a mistake on McCown, but then again, is that aggressiveness you really want to try to go for a gap and usually doesn't work out at the latter portions of the race, and you sometimes can get penalized by it.
I'm going to defend Luke here, get on the good graces of Simon Feigl as well, potentially, but
yeah,
it's a tough one, right? Because Lorenzo, it's not like at that stage, the gap is still only a second or two between Logitech Gioltas and the Williams Esports Chill Blast car, so it's not like that Luke can really afford to lose too much time in lap traffic. And for all of these drivers, so experienced that knowing when to try various things, I don't necessarily think that was the wrong choice. Now, it definitely didn't work out in their favor, but it's just unfortunate, right? And for Yuri Jurek, who was driving that Avra Vavatic car, I'm sure he's more frustrated with himself than we can even describe here as well, because they were having a rather decent race, and that has, added more damage to their car as well.
Yeah, putting them on the back burner a little bit. Of course, they weren't doing as well as the two cars were looking for the battle, the lead of the GT4. But of course, you're finishing in relatively good position. You're finishing within the top 10 of the GT4s, right? And we only have 10 cars, so you want to try to finish up as high as you can without any problems. And plus, taking out the leader does play a little bit of a mind strategy, as now we're looking. Actually, the leader is overlapping both cars right at the exit of Blanchimont.
And there goes the Williams Esports Chill Blast machine. 7/10 separates then GT4 leaders as you see one of the Ferraris making a very late move down the inside. That looked like a bit more of a send it Daniel Ricciardo style, was the number 93. You can see lights flashing from all the cars here. Jacob Toft, I think, in frustration. The other cars are just trying to move slower traffic out of the way. This will help, though, Jacob Toft down the hill, Lorenzo, because he's going to get a much better run as compared to the car in front now.
I think for the start of the All Rouge Radion, it might benefit a little bit, actually, Finch, because it is a TCR right ahead of him. So at the very start, it will help a little bit. I think that is even Team Mad. They're about to overlap. But at the very end, depending on circumstances, they might get blocked by a slower car, but it's not going to be the case. So actually Finch actually getting a third life, trying to force a little bit of a work.
It's worked out nicely for him, hasn't it? You got that TCR machine that's now inserted itself into the mix. And I think we've got down the inside as Paceworks Esports tries to stay out of the way of this battle at the front of the GT4 category. Pure Sims Esports still lead by 1.1 seconds, and I thought it might be slightly easier for Jacob, but once again, Finchy doing a fantastic job to make life as difficult as possible for a car that is trying to chase him down. And now the only battle that we have to worry about in terms of podium honors starts to intensify. And I say intensify, Lorenzo, because now neither of these drivers can afford to make a mistake, because one mistake will start to throw them out of draft range, and we've seen just how important that really is here at a track like Spa.
Yeah, because if you can get closer, you can do a whole lot of things, a whole gamma of options open up for you. And if you're Jacob Tots, you really don't want to be within a second and a half from your competitor, especially towards this latter portion. No, they're not towards the second half of their stints. They're nearly finishing the first half of their stints, but you really don't want to be away from your competitor with 1 hour and a half, less than an hour and a half to go in this race.
So I'm really trying to look at the timing screen now and just try and find various storylines to talk about, because it's been more action-packed in terms of incidents, Lorenzo, than I necessarily expected. A couple of clumsy incidents as well, I'd wager and argue, but really has been one of those stints where we're waiting, and we're just waiting because we don't know what's going to happen until the checkered flag at the end of the day. And it's one of those where I'd like to try and predict stuff, but more often than not, we're going to end up wrong here.
Yeah, we could end up very wrong. And also, I think, because this is a new series, and basically this is the upgraded version of what the iRacing Endurance Series was, and that series was a very different kind of format of racing. You had GTEs, had GT3s, you had, I think, 1 or 2 GT4s and the TCR. So it was very different in terms of how the track ran, and now you're grabbing something more out of real life because Creventic runs the 24-hour series. The only thing you don't have over here is the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup, and then you can get basically a copycat of the series they basically run with Neo Endurance Series. But still is a very interesting mix of cars nevertheless. It gives something, a very extra addition of racing, a very different dynamic of racing that we normally don't see.
Of course, as well, brand new Porsche 911 Cup car, the 992 generation, made its stateside debut just a couple of weeks ago at the Sebring 12-hour weekend. Lap times incredibly fast, and we're talking almost GTD level of performance there at a weekend where drivers were warned to rein themselves in very slightly because no spare parts, no spare tubs in particular, and word coming down apparently is that tubs might be in very short supply, not just for the early stages of the season, but indeed for large chunks of 2021 as well. So a lot of pressure on drivers.
I actually can give you real life info about this in Brazil.
Go ahead.
So one of the drivers I know is he's actually a new driver for Apex. He's Matheus Machado. He's Jeff Joss's new teammate in Apex Racing to the Brazilian side, and he made the setup for the LMP2 car. If you're wondering, by the way, that actually made the pole in the 12 hours of Sebring. He was talking because he's one of the Porsche Cup Brazil engineers. They didn't get the new car because of shortage of parts and spare parts, and also cars for the championship itself here in Brazil.
Yeah, and I think it's just at this point. The U.S. has obviously now had its first race weekend in that. Still have some of the old generation cars out there on track. Then in Europe, the Super Cup is imminently about to get underway. I think it's the next weekend. Should be very, very fun. You've got some very impressive sim racing names stepping up to the full Super Cup now. You've got the likes of Lauren Heinrich competing in a full season, as well as Rudy Van Buren, I think. So one name that you'll know from the world's fastest gamer and another name that you might know from various iRacing events. And excited to see who else gets those type of opportunities.
Don't forget about Aichen Guven as well.
I didn't
as you were mentioning earlier.
I didn't include him though because he's a real life driver that does sim stuff, Lorenzo.
Yeah, but still he does sim stuff. He's from Coanda, so
no, that's fair.
Yeah.
But my bar for that is he competed in the Mobile One Virtual Super Cup that we at RaceSpot got to cover last year, right?
Fair.
So that's my bar. He's already a Super Cup driver. We won't include him. I'm trying to think. I think there's one more driver as well that I'm just forgetting the name of, that maybe not doing the full Super Cup, but maybe even Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland this coming year. There's a lot.
I was going to say Sindre maybe.
No.
Because I know Sindre does real life.
No, it's not Sindre. I think Sindre might be doing VLN this year. It's someone less ingratiated in the iRacing community. That's why the name is escaping me right now. But yeah, lots of iRacers crossing over into the real world. And as we come off the other side of worldwide lockdowns and motorsports getting back to normal, I would expect lots of opportunities to start opening up for sim racing's finest. Now, you've already got, you're talking about Pure Sims, team owned by British touring car two-time champion Ash Sutton, who you can catch in action often on a Monday night here on RaceSpot TV. Roman Grosjean Esports, of course, as well. Former F1 driver, now turned to IndyCar. Very, very hands-on with the operation that the R8G crew run. And as well, you've got the likes of some of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola teams. Lots of big names there. More interestingly, at least for me, Lorenzo, in the past couple of weeks was the announcement that TSM, a huge name in not sim racing, but all of esports, is making the step into sim racing with the NASCAR Coca-Cola Series. They've signed that defending champion Nick Ottinger for their upcoming season. Very, very excited about what that means, not just for Nick and his future, but iRacing and sim racing as a whole.
Yeah, it's the second major esports outing, because if we're to look, the first one was G2 when they actually hired Yao T and someone else for NASCAR back in the early days. I think that was 3 years ago, even before we had this draft system or the franchise system of sorts for the current NASCAR eNASCAR series. But it's good to see TSM. It's a large outing, has a major fan base in the United States with other games. I don't know if I can actually mention the game, but I'm not going to mention it just for the sake of not doing it. But having them come and support sim racing as well is just great to see them 100%, into NASCAR. Let's see if they actually go for the other teams outside of NASCAR, maybe a team like Grammy Drives out of RWG or something like that, and build a good lineup to the future.
Well, and as we are now under very much nighttime conditions, if you're talking about G2, not necessarily as involved in iRacing anymore, but still very, very involved in sim racing as a whole, partnered up with BMW Motorsport in the German brand's continued forays into sim racing as well. It's not just these series like Creventic getting involved. It's also the likes of BMW and Porsche. This battle, by the way, we've been talking about the last 30 minutes about how we thought it might intensify. I must say, Finchy, Lorenzo, doing exactly what he needs to hold on here, and Jacob Toffs has not really had an opportunity to even get close under braking yet.
Yeah, I think he hasn't got a single clean lap, no traffic whatsoever, whether it's a faster traffic or slower traffic, to block any intentions of Tofts making the move on Ashley Finch. So and also this is not going to be the case on this lap, because there is a GT3 right behind him to make the overlap anytime soon. So I think Tofts might be saving a little bit of fuel. He's not going full aggressive as he wants as well, because they're on par on fuel, and I think he wants to save a little bit more to come down into the final stint with a better advantage towards Pure Sims, even though the car got really loose on the exit of the Eau Rouge.
See what happens then. That is a good call, actually, and We did say, why make your life difficult? Why not just do the pass in pit road and then maybe try and clear yourself as well? So maybe fuel saving the name of the game for the 718, both in terms of model number and car number in today's race. Very, very nice. Usually when you see Porsches registering for sessions, typical numbers, 991, 959, etc., etc., good to now have the 718 brand represented as well in terms of car numbering. You can see, by the way, the bottom right portion of your screen. It says 1 lap is the gap between second and third, but that's really just because the AXA SimSport team had come down onto pit road about 4 laps ago, give or take. Slightly different in terms of when drivers are coming down onto pit road, and with the pit stop delta being an incredible 120 seconds, give or take. It's basically a full lap, so 1 lap is not really a representative delta at this point in time. V3 Racing in our YouTube chat saying that the battle for third is heating up. Yes, it is. It's come down from about 11 seconds to 8.5 in the last 25 minutes or so, but Iago Rosado for the We Love Mazepin team has picked up the pace in the last couple of laps, extended the gap back out to the V3 Racing number 8 car by about half a second last time around. Good to see V3 Racing, one of their first appearances in a RaceSpot TV broadcast, very much living up to the expectations that they had set for themselves, Lorenzo, because an hour and 12 minutes to go here. They're staring down a potential podium finish.
Yeah, they have. You know, it's a team that has both they love Mazepin and they have the driver lineup. I think we even saw them in private leagues. But V3, I know, has a really good lineup. I know one of the drivers actually drove with them. I think back in 2016 on one of the very first iterations of the iRacing Le Mans 24 or French countryside track, whatever you prefer. That is Mike Shepard that is actually driving the car. I actually drove with him one of the splits, and seeing the rise of that team, quite international, somewhat Dutch-based to be very honest, but still really good performance so far from V3, and just clinging into the podium, 1 second strata off again.
Is the move going to come here? Very good run down the hill from Jacob Toffs. Lift off under that braking zone, and I do think Lorenzo fuel saving. Let's focus in on the on-track action once more here between GT4 leaders. I do think let's jump on board with the 718 for a couple of laps here and just listen in the background. But I do think it's fuel saving that is on Jacob Toff's mind right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna get on the gyro cam here for me and try to focus. Yeah, he's lifting some of the turns. Of course, this turn, Jackie X corner, you have to lift a little bit so the car can carry the grip into the inside part of the corner. But now Pujon, there was a slight lift. Let's see into the pit path if there will be a lift for Jacob Toffs.
Under the bridge, lifting even before the bridge there. So there's the answer. Fuel saving very much important for Toffs. I wonder what the strategy will be for Finchi in front then, Lorenzo.
Yeah, because right now there's a little bit of a problem. He has a TCR right in front of him. I think that is, I was gonna say that's the E41 SRT TCR of Jose Rodriguez, right ahead of Ashley Finch as he clears off him rather quickly. I don't know how much effective time loss there will be for both cars. No, none whatsoever. Actually, Jose backed away a little bit.
Oh, Pure Sims got onto the grass, onto the entry through Blanchimont. They get sent wide. Lost them just a bit of momentum. Not enough to open the door up to Jacob Toss from behind, but good car control, quick hands to hang on to that one. Gap now, though, once more. Nothing in terms of time. You can separate them by about 2 car lengths out on track. 70 minutes to work. They work lap 15 in their stint, Lorenzo. They've got 11 laps to go before we expect them to come down onto pit road. But at the same time, if either of these guys wanted to play something slightly different, they could come in now and be safe on fuel.
Yeah, if they wanted to go for a pit stop right now, nothing is impeding them to do so, and they wouldn't have to care about fuel efficiency. They can go from start to finish without any major issues. But now I can see Finching going for initial defensive line, but he knows now that Toft is not going to come for any overtakes whatsoever. And Jacobs lifting way before the curbing for the braking into Leclerc.
And I think, at this point now, 10 minutes left at the top before we get into the final 60 minutes, Lorenzo. He's been saving for 15 laps. Why not turn the taps up? Set the afterburners to full bore at this point. Just go for it. What's the worst that could happen? Well, get a drive-through penalty. That's the worst that could happen.
You really want to get a drive-through penalty without 1 hour to go.
No, and that's the point that I was trying to make there. There's probably a reason why Tofts is being a bit more reserved than you might expect here, because especially to find pace at a track like this, you need to push the track limits, Lorenzo, and you don't want to risk losing 60 seconds in the final hour just by having to drive through the pit box, at the pit lane speed limit.
Yeah, and effectively you lose that minute. You just said it, right? So at this point of the race, you want to try and we've seen this in other events. Drivers saving as much as they can those incidents, those off-track incidents they can use one by one, lap by lap, and then try to distance themselves away so they can be clear and go for a win. So that might be a good strategy from them both. Try to save as much incident points you can without going over the margin or even at the margin of 50 points.
And so they work through the bus stop, very close still. I tell you what, let's take this opportunity, because we've got some time now before the pit stop window well and truly opens. Before we go to a final RaceBot TV fan immersion, let's cycle through each of our three classes and give you the rundown as things stand. We'll start in reverse order, and we'll start with TCR. It is still Steen Ledger and Frozen Speed Full Send Racing that leads by more than an entire lap at this point in time. BM Racing Team, they owe us a pit stop, but after significant contact up through Eau Rouge and Radion early in the race, great to see them still in contention for a podium. It will likely cycle out to about 5th position. Impulse, they're in net 2nd place, and it's Simtech versus Team Mad for the 3rd and final step on the podium. E41, Prism Sim Racing, Wasabi Racing Technology, and then Paceworks Esports, the final car still out there circulating of the 9 TCRs out there. Next up, it's GT4. And Lorenzo, why don't you walk us through this one?
Yeah, so Pure Sims is still retaining the lead from Jacob Tuft. They're still in the battle for P1 as they just come out of the Mount Medina now into Jackie X corner. Both cars close to one another, 0.6 of a second separating both cars. One lap behind is the AXA or AXA SimSport 148, but it's actually the number 5 car. P4 is the Zekaru Esports driven by Dan Dressea. P5 is Prism. And Alexander Rustemeyer was involved in a few battles and a few scraps with some other cars around the track. DRE Endurance not far behind, 6 seconds from Alexander Rustemeyer. Then we have R4R Motorsport in the P7. Eva Vervatic involved with the incident with the former leader in Altus in P8. P9 is the Pacific Scene Motorsport Black, and out of the 10 cars running in the GT4 category is Sunshine Autos as number 21 in 10th place, Arjuna.
That is GT4, and Yuri Jurg from Ava Vivatic did jump into the YouTube chat just to apologize for his involvement in the incident and was enjoying the GT3 battle as well. They still run around then with Dirk Federman behind the wheel. Turn our attention to GT3 very quickly. It is Williams Esports Chill Blast in the BMW M4 GT3 prototype car that leads by 56 whole seconds from SimRC and the number 76. We love Mazepin. Well, they've got a challenge on their hands here. Can't afford to Mazepin. Only 3.3 seconds clear of V3 Racing in the number 8. Really Sim Racing, the German outfit, their 85 car finds themselves 19 seconds adrift from that battle for the 3rd and final step on the podium. And you've got some new faces to RaceBot TV, the 2, the 12, and the 93 as well. RSR by G Performance hasn't been the easiest day for Dominik Kulkowski. They're still up in the top 10, along with T3 Esports and Oliver Ackerman. This is our biggest class. We started with 20 cars taking to the green flag. We are now down to just, I think it is, 12 cars circulating. Most recent retirement, of course, Logitech G Altus Esports, in what was looking to shape up to be a very interesting race. Sprint to the checkered flag. Trying to get all my words out. It's been a very, very long day so far. First 4 hours of coverage for myself. Last 4 hours as well. Delighted to be alongside Lorenzo Bonder. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. We're going to step aside for just a couple of minutes here live on RaceSpot TV. Don't go anywhere. You won't miss anything as we go to RaceSpot TV Fan Immersion and we jump on board with the 718 of Porsche Sport as they chase down the GT4 race leader. Welcome back to final hour coverage here live from the circuit Spa-Francorchamps and a season opener in the Creventic Endurance Championship. My name is Arjuna Kenkipati, alongside is Lorenzo Bonder for the final 50 minutes of action here, Lorenzo. And what looks like it might be a very interesting run to the checkered flag, especially in the GT3 category, has slightly come unstuck. We still then have intrigue, in the GT4 class.
Yeah, there's still a lot of intrigue in the GT4. Battle for the lead is still within a second from Pure Sims and Porsche Sport. And we still haven't made up who's going to be coming out on top. They still owe us a pit service in the next 5 laps or so. GT3 is going to basically seal the deal unless something happens, a disaster happens for Williams. Also, TCR seems to be sealed the deal as well.
Yeah, with a full lap lead in that TCR class, I definitely hope Steen Ledger and the Full Send Racing team have that one, at least one hand on the victory. Let's go take a look at a replay, and one that I was hoping that we wouldn't have happen under fan immersion, but needs must sometimes, and we sometimes just need a little bit of a break. It was 3 wide, and We Are Mazepin had to concede the position here, Lorenzo, to V3 Racing and Owen Blythe. Fantastic move, very, very bold, and that Ferrari into a podium position now in the final hour of the race.
And they were saying like first time in top split and getting rewarded by a podium so far, looking good for them. But then again, I already cursed way too many teams. I kind of cursed all this, so I'm not going to curse this team as well. I'll let you guys finish in the best position you guys can.
Hey, and full credit to these guys. They managed to pull a 6-second interval to the We Are Mazepin team. There you can see it's also about 20 seconds back to the 85. So really in the driver's seat in this battle for the third and final step in the GT3 podium. Top 2 positions a little bit more set in stone, if you will, with Agustin Canapino enjoying a 65-second advantage over the second place car, Sim RC and Hayden Burns. Turn our attention then, Lorenzo, back to that GT4 battle with great intrigue here, because there was a moment under fan immersion where the gap slowly extended, and now you can see 1.3 seconds between Ashley Finch and Jacob Toffs. I did say, and now I'm maybe feeling a little bit guilty, I thought this was going to be much easier for Jacob Toffs. I am very impressed by Ashley Finch right now.
Same, he's, again, keeping Jacob Toffs honest. That's the most important thing. He's not, lifting away because he wants to as well. It's because he pushed the car way so much, trying to get closer and closer to the Pure Sims car, especially in the early portion of the stint, that I think it made Jacob Toffs realize, I'm burning way too much fuel and I might have to back out of the car to try to be within equal grounds. But the work done by Ashley Finch on traffic for me has been impressive the most.
Well, Jason McCoy, don't worry. It's just a little bit of fun, right? It's not... Let's be real, the name Nikita Mazepin has a little bit of a certain connotation that goes around with it now in international motorsport circles, and I know the team that is racing maybe didn't necessarily mean it in the way, or at least I hope not, so we're just going to have fun with it, and yeah, we love Mazepin. That's what we will say. I spent the first hour not even saying the team name and just calling by the driver's name until I'll give full credit to my teammate, Luke Pfeiffer, Artifact Racing. He came up with that one, and I've stolen it from him on our team Discord, Lorenzo. And, well, I feel a little bit guilty, but not really.
For saying Mazepin?
Well, no. Here's the thing. I completely forgot that was a thing. So if not for him reminding me, I don't think we would have had that joke on this broadcast.
That is true, at least, again, we can make all the puns and all the references and all the jokes in the world, but let's not take away the work done by the Spaniards. They've been doing very impressively, despite being overtaken by Owen Blythe in the V3 car, and they might be in danger towards the latter portion of their stint of being overtaken by Relay, because Philip Klinger is putting some really good laps in, really bit by bit, despite the gap being around 12 seconds and a half.
I wonder if there's some damage to the Lamborghini, Lorenzo. It's hard to tell.
There was.
Sorry, go ahead.
There was. They came into the front end. The front end, I think, was slightly bent on the right-hand side of the car,
Ah.
that might affect a little bit of performance. But then I think Thiago also is being a little bit more safe than usual within traffic. That's why he might have lost a little bit of time.
When you say that, Lorenzo, the first thing that pops into my mind is, well, they must be close to getting a drive-through.
True. Very true.
Well, and you're right. They have done a good job. Iago Rosado at the wheel now. Andres Fernandez in before Ismael Martel, the third driver in this crew. Very impressive pace early in the race. 2:17 kind of lap times as well. Gives you an indication of what's going on. Turn our attention to TCR, by the way. It's just been a switch around between Jordan Weeks for Simtech Motorsports. He's gotten past Matthias Magnussen for the Impulse Racing 222, but not a pass for position. It's just track position at the end of the day because, of course, Jordan Weeks is yet to come down and give us a pit stop. At this point in time, Lorenzo, we were having a discussion earlier on about whether that Simtech car might still be in contention for that third and final podium position, but with Miguel Freitas about 13 seconds behind this battle right now, I have a feeling that, unfortunately for Simtech, they'll be closer to about 7th or 8th position than where they would have hoped to be.
Yeah, it's tricky, you know. They just overtook the Impulse Racing, and their pace has been blistering. Like, last lap for Jordan Weeks was a 2:34.845. It isn't the fastest lap in the race. That belongs to Frozen Speed Sun Racing's Team Ledger, but it is the only car aside BM Racing Team which has been in the 234s, and with some consistency, despite the fact that Jordan Weeks is about 3 or 4 laps left into his pit lane. But he amassed a really good gap to the other cars. I think if it comes down to pit lane, it might cut really close to 50% of the stint, like you said, and come down maybe fighting for P4 and P5.
And of course, you know, for Jordan Weeks' preparation for the final round of the the 24-hour Esports series, where he'll be driving a Porsche 911. Got myself all tied up there. Not necessarily the best preparation in a TCR machine, but nevertheless, getting practice in terms of traffic, understanding what a TCR car does as well. And, you know, honestly, Lorenzo, sometimes I think that's what separates the good drivers from the great drivers. It's, especially in multi-class racing, knowing what the other strengths are in terms of not just your competitors out on track, but the other classes as well, so you can know how to use them appropriately to gain time out on track.
Yeah, because, you know, you might be able to see if the cars, you know, are being more aggressive, trying to go for the overlaps, if they can break off the traffic. You just know by how aggressive that car wants to go as the laps go by, and maybe pace dictating that itself too. So if you have that data in hand, that is already a big advantage when you come to head-to-head battles like we're seeing in the battle for the lead of the GT4s.
It is getting very, very dark. Drivers are reliant now on the headlights to actually find their braking references. This is where the practice starts to become important, making sure you don't make any mistakes. And at the front of GT4, it is closed up once again. Jacob Toffs, is that car coming alive in these cold conditions? What's the track temperature, you wonder? Well, first, you can head on over to racebot.wtf/24 to get redirected to Timing 71 and their world-class suite of data analysis tools. But track temperature, Lorenzo, 21 degrees Celsius. It is now colder than when we started this race off.
Yeah, it is slightly colder than while we started this race off, but also we've reached 20 degrees ambient, so there might be a possibility we might be able to see 20 degrees, maybe at the very final 10 minutes of the race, we might even see 19 degrees, and the possibility of a track being nearly at an all-time low cold for this race specifically, and enable some faster laps, even though it's not going to be a huge difference from what it is now.
And so what are the fastest laps? Let's try and figure out what the deltas are right now. For race leader in the GT3 class, it was a 2:17.252. That's the fastest lap for them, which I do believe is not the fastest lap of the race. That's a 2:17.129 set by SimRC and Hayden Burns. But in terms of drop-off, still seeing cars, Lorenzo, in the 217s in GT3, the high 217s, and slightly reliant on traffic as well.
Yeah, the majority are doing 217s, 218s. The only one I've seen on the 220s is Iago Rosado, but I think that it might, again, it lie with the damage they have on the front right of the car might play into effect here as well, and the fact that you have to keep it clean on the track and avoid any penalties might be allied to that fact as well, because Philip Klinger is coming closer. The fastest lap of the race belongs to the Alpine Energy team with a lap of a 2:17.006.
Not bad there at all. In terms of GT4s, fastest lap time, I think a 2:28.261. Last time around for Porsche Sport, a 28.882. Only half a second slower, so not bad at all. In terms of the pace drop-off, gap under half a second once again for the Porsche Sport team. Porsche Sport chiming in the YouTube chat as well. If you like watching Porsche's race, RaceSpot TV has coverage of the Porsche Sport Carrera Cups on Sundays. You can join Peter Mackay and Sommel Aurora for action there. Always highly entertaining stuff. No Caymans in action, but instead, of course, the big brother, the 911 Cup car, our World Championship car as well, Lorenzo, and we've got some of the former World Championship drivers in that series.
Well, we got some. It's a very stacked lineup in the Porsche Sport Carrera Cup series. I'm really interested to look at. I cannot remember I think next round is tomorrow, if I recall correctly. You might be able to correct me in this. To be more exact, but it's a great race nevertheless. And here this is interesting. Ashley Finch coming into the pit lane, kind of like we expected.
We did expect fuel saving to be done by Jacob Toffs. Re-inherits the race lead. This is one of the most important laps of the entire race. It could be that upwards of 300 laps gets decided by Toff's pace on this one in particular. Down the hill he plunges for the final time I would expect in this stint, Lorenzo. Now let's see how long the pit stop is going to be for Ashley Finch.
Yeah, because we have about 41 seconds, 41:40 to be more precise, in this race. So it is not a full stint. It is by far not a full stint. I think that might be around 16, maybe 16, 17 laps-ish in their stint. Depending on circumstances, they might be cutting even closer than that, but nevertheless, this is more interesting.
Ooh.
Ian Gagnon Renault coming in for the final stint.
This might be, you know why, Lorenzo? If you're taking tires, it's only a 30-second stop, so why not do the driver as well? Throw in someone fresh to push for the next 40 minutes or so. The question now becomes, does Jacob Toffs take tires, and does he decide it's worth the risk? And how much fuel does he need to take as well? Does he risk a shorter pit stop in the final 40 minutes of this race? My, oh my. Off the jacks goes Ian Gagnon Renault. 40 seconds, almost to the dot in terms of pit lane time there, Lorenzo. That is a very interesting call. And Porsche Sport, they might have the option now to kind of deny us a little bit of a fight here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, the strategy put up by Porsche Sport whenever they come down to the pit lane. If I recall correctly, GT4 cars pit, fuel, and tires nearly at the same time. They're in parallel, so there is no major time loss. I think Jacob Toffs can allow himself to come into the pit lane right now, as he's just done with Blanchimont, and then do for the same strategy as the Gagnon Renault has gone. Let's take a look at the next, I would say in the next 45 seconds.
This is going to be crucial. Lap was fairly solid for Toffs, not much traffic, and of course, his competitor has cold tires to deal with. By the way, from the race lead as well, Williams Esports Chill Blast and Agustin Canapino into the pit box for the final time this race. They might have hoped to have a little bit more competition at this point in time. Unfortunately, the Altus Esports car has that incident through the bus stop chicane in the closing couple of hours of this race. Agustin Canapino has 40 minutes to hold on to victory here at Spa. drive-through penalties, by the way, for We Love Mazepin. So they've lost 60 seconds out on track now. That might be crucial in the battle for the podium positions. Meanwhile, we still await the arrival of Jacob Toft. He's finally heading downhill now, Lorenzo. But Pure-Sims Esports already building up temperature in their tires. They're coming around the Curve Paul Frere right now.
Just done with Stavalo coming into Pro Frere. No traffic whatsoever. That is important for Ian Gaillon Renault whenever he came down the pit lane. Don't get blocked by a TCR. Don't get overtaken in a very nifty spot by a GT3. So he has a lot of advantage coming into the final turns of this race. There is one car, though. There is a TCR, but I don't think he's going to play much as a big factor in the final turns.
Let's see what happens. 25 seconds already stationary. I think Tofts is taking tires. How is this going to play out? 30 seconds to stationary now. Where is the Pure-Sims car? Working their way down into turn number 1. Tofts is about to get released from the jacks. In fact, no, it's a long stop, Lorenzo. 42 seconds and counting right now. 46 seconds in total. Where is Pure-Sims going to come out in relation to this? They're already down the start-finish straight in terms of where we started this race, excuse me. They will be in the lead of this race.
Yeah, they will be in the lead of this race. So quite impressive, to be very honest with you. But to see Ian Gaillon Renault not going for the full fuel stint strategy, and then Jacob Toft going for basically a full stint, you know, in terms of fuel. Being a slightly heavier car, but the gap 5 seconds between both cars.
Well, I hope Pure-Sims has calculated this correctly, because guess who was doing the fuel saving? It was Jacob Toft, the car that was in second. The gap between the two cars contending for the race victory is now up to 5.6. But if the Pure-Sims car has to do fuel saving, it's going to be very, very interesting what tools he has at his disposal to actually fight back. Of course, tires are on the side of Pure-Sims right now, Lorenzo. Jacob Toft still has to get those tires up to working range.
Yeah, it will take about 2 to 3 laps for Toft to get within optimal range. Same thing was going to happen for Gaillon Renault. He has to waste about 2 to 3 laps to build up the heat in the tires of that Porsche 718 Club Sport Cayman. So it is kind of an equal ground right now. So whenever we get the 4th lap of their season, this is where we really can see whose strategy is better.
I thought we were going to have a bit of a photo finish in that class, to be honest, Lorenzo. It might not be as close.
I'm down, Arjuna.
I'm down. I just don't know if it's as likely as we think. The comment from Ash Carrera in the YouTube chat, to fuel save or to not fuel save? I think that gives us the indication then of what we'll be watching out for. Gap 5.2 now as Tofts works down into Blanchimont. 36 minutes are left on the clock. And you know what, Lorenzo? Oh boy, I love this stuff.
We love it. You know, it's those moments in racing, you know, you think you are safe, and out of the blue, you're out of gasoline and you might have to go for a splash and dash. It's those split-second calls that can change everything in racing. And good to see being called over here. You know, go for a glory or go for, you know, second place. You really want to be second place in a race like this?
I don't think Renault's so happy about how that Lamborghini got on through. I would say, Lorenzo, the GT4s are kind of at the mercy of the GT3 race leader and the pace from Agustin Canapino. Where is Agustin now on track? Let's pick him up coming down through Blanchimont. So let's say in the next 30 minutes or so, with the delta between these two cars only being about 10 seconds a lap, they're going to get lapped once. So there's only one extra lap they have to consider. But, you know, this is the problem with being a slower class car. You are reliant on when the leader takes the white flag, not when you take the white flag.
Yeah, it's a very tricky one because we know they might get overlapped in the next 2 laps, roughly, right? So it becomes a matter of, can the leader go around one more time? And if so, how close it is the leader will be to start finish line relatively to the time of the race itself, and then will they get the extra lap?
It's going to be cool. It's going to be close. It's going to be so much fun. And a reminder, this is just the first of 4 of these iRacing Creventic Endurance Series races. We'll travel first across of Europe. We'll next make the trip out to Germany and the Hockenheim Ring for the 12-hour race there at the end of June. Then at the end of August, we will head to Spain and the circuit Barcelona, Catalonia. That will be a lot of fun. And we'll continue our trip out to the west by heading across the pond to the Sebring International Raceway. And for 12 hours of what in at least a GT4 car might feel like a bumpy hell, will be an exciting race. 3 champions to be crowned as well. And this year with Creventic's official backing, rather cool, I think, to say, Lorenzo, you would be a Creventic, a series champion.
Yeah, it's going to be a really cool addition to your iRacing portfolio to see your Creventic, a real cool brand of racing, you know, responsible for the Henko 24-hour series and so many other leagues, gentlemen racing like leagues in the whole world, be part of another official series in iRacing, and highly competitive one at it.
It's great as well to have the partnership to actually do the broadcast with them as well. Big shout out to the team there and Niels Heikens for getting this organized on late notice. And RaceBot TV will be here throughout the entirety of this championship to bring you live and uninterrupted coverage. As final pit stops for a couple of cars underway. Looks like Dirk Federman for Aver Vervatic in the Porsche 718 Cayman there, down on pit road. Gap down to 4.3 seconds. Let's go talk about the TCR race leader once more here, Lorenzo, because, again, it's been utter domination. And, well, I mean, Steen Ledger using this race as preparation for the upcoming season finale of the 24H Esports Championship at this very track. And you know what? I don't think you could get much better preparation.
Not at all. You know, I think this is the best case preparation you can get. The best pace in the race, best lap of the race. I think you did the best lap. I think Steen did the best lap of the race at the very tail end of this stint. And at the same time, everybody in the team is doing really good. Mikel Garcia doing really good. Lars Boll doing really good, and making no errors whatsoever and getting rewarded with lead over everybody else in the grid. I'll take that gladly.
Well, I think more importantly, it's also, you know, the fact that you've stayed clean for 12 hours, which means you've accumulated data from every different point of the race. You know what it's like at the start when it might be greasy but, you know, relatively cool. You know what it's like in the afternoon when it starts to warm up and it starts to slick up even more. And then you know what the transition's like as the marbles become a bigger factor, as the night starts to come, as the temperatures start to drop. And you know what changes you need to work on in the next couple of weeks heading into that season finale as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You get all that data. Again, race is pretty much the same, 12 hours. Conditions are nearly equal. They don't differ one bit whatsoever. Might differ in terms of how the rubber might be at the beginning of the race and during qualifying, because, you know, the others that series run a open qualifier between the categories, so the rubber can build up slightly quicker. Still, nevertheless, it's basically best case scenario for everything: pace, data, and preparation setup as well.
I wonder how many changes they'll make to that setup between now and when is it? It is April 17th, that season finale, live on RaceBot TV. We'll have Ben Constangier as part of the coverage as well. And I have a feeling with a 12-hour race, we'll split that one up into 2 teams as well. We were talking about Porsche Sport slightly earlier in the Carrera Cup before pit stops became a thing in GT4. Delighted to say that tomorrow we've got round 2 of the 2021 Carrera Cup from Circuit Zolder. Ooh, that's a good one. And that will produce fireworks in that sort of a championship as well, Lorenzo.
Yeah, because it isn't a wide track. It isn't lengthy in terms of, you know, again, length. lengthy track as real wide out or real space out or real big. It is around 2.5 kilometers, and it has some sectors where it's very driver prone to mistakes. So it's gonna be a very, very interesting race.
The next round after that, ooh, Imola. Oh, round 3 at Imola. And then round 4, the Nürburgring. Round 5 at Brands Hatch. Oh, I'm loving this schedule. Round 6 at Suzuka. Round 7 then at Sebring, and that would be the season finale. Nice little trip around Europe with a dash across the pond once more to Sebring. Seems to be a popular venue for private leagues to go and race at, and it's only fitting. It is a wonderful track. 69 years that facility has hosted the 12 Hours of Sebring. The past week we saw the 7th annual iRacing 12 Hours, and we're already creating our own history on the iRacing service here. 3.3 seconds now the gap, Lorenzo, between the race leaders and the chasing Porsche Sport car. It's going to come down to the wire, and we'll break out the famous Murray Walker quote. I mean, it's one thing to catch up. It's another thing to actually get the move done.
Yeah. In Portuguese, there is slightly similar. They like our version of Murray Walker says something very similar. He actually grabbed the line out of him. But it's going to be interesting nevertheless. Now, Ian Renault actually has Paceworks, and I think the Team Mad car ahead of him to work as a draft a little bit. Try to build up that gap difference, because from what it looks like, Jacob might catch them right around Malmedy, and if he catches them right around Malmedy or Jack Eakes' corner, some time can be lost. So good job done by young Renault to line up the gap, even if it is by a slight margin.
And Toffs has to be slightly frustrated at this point as well. I mean, how do you avoid letting the frustration get to you, Lorenzo? Pole position, domination for so much of this race, and it's just swung. The pendulum has swung in favor of Pure Sims in the closing stages here, and it's going to take a full send. Speaking of full send leading in TCR, it really is going to take something special to displace, I think, Pure Sims from the lead here.
Yeah, it's been a really good battle throughout the entirety of the race. I think with both teams, it's just picked up way too much in the second half instead of the first half between Porsche Sport and Pure Sims. That frustration, you cannot think about it like too much. Just you have to think it as it's traffic. Traffic giveth and traffic taketh. So erase that from your brain and just move forward.
Well, not much time then to really focus in for these cars. 26 minutes and a sprint then to the checkered flag. Who will come out on top? Porsche Sport has the race leader right behind them. Doesn't force the issue, I'm sure. Jacob Toss will be very appreciative of how Canapino got on through there. Much cleaner than some of the incidents that we've seen between various cars in today's race. Still, the question mark remains. Fuel saving, how much of it is Gagnon Renault doing at this point in time? And is he even good? Is he even going to be able to make it to the end of this race? Lots of question marks. Unfortunately, the only way that you'll find the answers is sticking around for the next 25 minutes on RaceBot TV. Let's also remind you, if you want to stay in touch with us and follow along with all the great sim racing series that we get to cover, some weeks we have upwards of 16 different broadcasts. You can follow us across of social media at RaceBot TV, and if you're not already subscribed to us on YouTube, you should hit the button and the bell next to it to get notified every single time we go live with the great sim racing series we get to follow. As well, head on over to racebot.wtf/Discord, and you can stay involved with us there. We have a live bot that lets you know when we go live as well, so not just YouTube notifications, but Discord notifications if you desire as well. V3 Racing, we'll talk about them once more here, Lorenzo. 35 seconds clear now of any of the cars behind. They are looking good for a podium position, and in their first ever RaceBot TV broadcast, wow, what a result.
What a result. I have no complaints whatsoever. The driving, Otto and Blythe, Kiefer McKenna, and and Mike Shepherds have been extraordinary, keeping it clean as well, avoiding any mistakes. Started P7, you know, it's a place that for a 12-hour race you really don't want to be in for the first few hours because it can get scrappy with against other cars trying to duel it out on the track. But they did great. You know, of course, a few incidents apart propelled them into this podium position. But hey, that's racing. You know, depending on circumstances, sometimes you might get rewarded with a good position. Sometimes, hey, something happened and you get bumped back.
And taking a look at the GT3s on the left side, you'll see the movers and shakers, but you'll really see it's big losers and big shakers, if you will. Williams, one of the few guys to only move up a couple of positions, but you see 9 positions gained for a number of cars up in the top 10. Of course, the Alpine Energy Team and the Logitech Gioltas cars, they're down double digits respectively. And then you can see as well at the tail end, cars retiring very early on that had some good pace. As the V3 boys, I think, are saying in the YouTube chat, the race is not over yet, so Owen Blythe still has to focus in on 23 minutes of keeping that car clean. Cleaner than Jose Lobo has done coming out of La Source in this GT3 class. Oh, watch the rejoin there. He's able to get that one safely back on track, and I guess, Lorenzo, let's spool up the RaceBot TV replay machine.
Let's do it, because I want to see this one as...
Is that Pure Sims?
Sim. That is Pure Sims. Oh, no.
No. Okay, we are jumping back to live pictures right now. How close is this gap between the two leaders in GT4? It is 0.8 of a second, and the fight is well and truly back on at this point in time, Lorenzo.
Spa-Francorchamps always finds a way of making things
interesting.
Yeah, thank you for putting words into my mouth. That I was trying to find something that was fitting. I think that's the best word we can fit in right now.
Well, my brain is just going crazy right now. Like wow. I mean, let's try and. It's hard to see in the pitch black of night right now, but I'm trying to see what the damage is to the Pure Sims car. Whatever damage there is, Lorenzo, it will not help them from defending this charge from behind now.
I'm looking at the car relatively with the headlights. Thank you, Porsche Sport, by providing the headlights from the back and me taking a look at it on the rear chase. Car looks like it is clean.
Incredible. Wait, are you being serious right now?
It is clean. It has like no damage whatsoever. It's so weird.
I quite frankly do not believe what I'm hearing right now. So one more look at the replay. Super slow-mo it if we can. Try and take a look at the aerial look here just to see how hard the contact is. Very minor initially. Have they just gotten away with one, Lorenzo?
I think they did. I think they actually did get away with one of it. And right now, Extremadura and Ribatejo actually are going to overlap them again. Please, no contact.
Here comes the 2-car once more down the inside into La Source. Oh, you know, and it goes back to what Paul Smith was saying when I spoke to him the first time around, Lorenzo, where he was saying some of these GT3 cars driving with their eyes painted on, and I don't want to sound too dismissive of, you know, the fight of Jose Lobo, because he wasn't a scrap for 4th position in class. But when you see the GT4 race leader right in front of you, a late send down to the inside, I think the only person that enjoyed watching that might be Porsche Sport.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, you know, you really don't want to be the guest of honor, you know, trying to arrive into an incident like this and saying, oh, thank you very much for this kind of mistake. You know, I have nothing to do with this, and I get rewarded with 3 seconds. Hey, I'll take it very much. Thank you. But it's those kind of situations, you know, you want to earn those 3 seconds you're trying to fight for, not get 3 seconds just because of a racing incident like this one.
Oh, well, Porsche Sport says they can't watch. I don't know if I can watch much longer either. 19 minutes left on the clock right now. 7 tenths.
Right now.
7 tenths. That is the difference after 12 hours. In 2 of the classes, it is not like that as well, at all. It has been domination in TCR, slight domination in GT3. If Altus Esports was still around, that might still have been somewhat of a fight, but SimRC finds themselves 1 minute and 50 seconds behind the race-leading Williams Esports Chill Blast machine. V3 Racing, they are in 3rd, on for a very strong podium position in their RaceBot TV debut. But GT4, this is the battle to watch out for, and this is one now where no fuel saving, none of that, no nonsense. It's all about balls to the wall and pushing to the limit.
Yeah, that 1 lap difference in terms of fuel between Jacob Tofts and Pure Sims. Good luck, Guillaume Renault. If you're thinking about fuel saving right now, you're all depending on the leader.
Yeah, no, I mean, if anything, you need to get passed by Tofts as quickly.
Oh, the lunge!
I don't think he was looking, but I think out of La Source it might happen. But if you're Renault at this point, Lorenzo, maybe let the switch happen. Save the fuel. Last couple of laps of the race, go for it.
Yeah, go for it. You know, it's those moments of the race. You know, I think you have to be aggressive. You know, you cannot rely on a teammate being slightly slower or something like that just because of different strategies you're trying to play it out or mind games you're trying to play it out or something like that. Go for it. Go for it and let destiny decide what happens next. You know, just drive your own race.
We love Mazepin. I think a bit of a helping hand to Pure Sims. They checked up Porsche Sport coming down the hill. Didn't really check up the momentum from the Pure Sims car. Draft now for both of them. Oh, ducking and diving. They are starting to think about it. We didn't see that from Tofts in the last part of the split. So this is going to be fun. Tofts with incredible pace. Can he tame that aggression? Can he find a way past? And can he do it safely? That's the question. And for Pure Sims, they're preparing just like the Full Send Racing crew is for the season finale of the 24H Esports Championship in a couple of weeks' time from this very track. And victory here today against a very strong opposition would be a good confidence booster heading into that final round, Lorenzo.
Absolutely. You know, every confidence you can get into a nail-biting race in Spa, and you have an extra category because you have the 911 Cup in the 24-hour series, E-Series, which brings a different dynamic into this race. It's already a big boost, you know, so... of course, facing a different dynamic, but every win you can get, every confidence boost you can get towards a race that is of a big magnitude, it's already a positive thing. I'm just going to do some quick calculations because I might see an interesting perspective towards the end of the race.
Okay, well, Lorenzo's going to do some math. I don't think I have the mental capacity to do that, to be honest. We're looking off the back of Pure Sims Esports. GT3 car streaks down the inside. Momentum on the side of Porsche Sport. As we work down into the bus stop chicane, will the lunge come? He's been looking. He's been tempting. He doesn't take it just yet. 15 minutes are left on the clock. Where is the overall race leader? Coming through the Camel, at the end of the Camel Straight, excuse me, the Lacombe chicane. So quick math, if it's working in my head, which is always a big doubt, about 8 laps. 8 laps, give or take, for Canapino.
I have 7.
7, okay, wow, okay. How close are we to 8, though, Lorenzo?
Not close. It is about 7. All right, here's the thing. I grabbed 219 as a good benchmark because it counts traffic, right? So if it does 219 low-ish, you get 7.1 laps.
Which,
roughly.
Well, give me some credit here, Lorenzo. In iRacing, that means 8. Doesn't it?
Could be, you know.
No,
Could be.
Because if you take if you don't take the checkered flag as you come across the line to do that .1, you start the next lap and you have to finish the next lap. So it is 8. So my math was not off. I was using 2 minutes 20 as my baseline for the numbers. It makes it much easier when you can say 3 laps is about 3 laps is about 7 minutes, give or take. So okay, 7 or 8 laps. That's how long these guys have to decide this fight out on track. I hope maybe if we can get one of the Pure Sims guys in our YouTube chat, Lorenzo, to give us the fuel number, that will make things very easy for us to know what the picture is right now. Because as far as I'm concerned, Renault either makes it or doesn't. There's no in between here.
Yeah, there is not. You know, it's gonna be very close. Like, you're cutting at the very, very fine margin in terms of fuel, so it's gonna be an interesting one.
It's closing up as well. Out of campus they go, down in towards Stavilo. Up the hill they will climb in towards the Blanchimont corner. Let's jump on board with Jacob Toffs and ride on board with the wonderful visor cam. You can see the steering wheel illuminates in your face. Up into 5th gear using the entire rev range as well. Down into 5th, slight tap of the brakes as you can see from Pure Sims in front. Does Toffs look to the inside? He does. Does he actually commit under braking? No, he does not, but he gets very, very close through the apex of the corner here, Lorenzo. I think this move is coming in the next couple of laps.
I think it might come in the next lap, depending on the runoff.
So, are you in agreement with me as well that probably the best place to make this happen is down in towards the Com chicane? It's all about the run down here, and hopefully that GT3 car does aid the Porsche Sport car here.
Yeah, let's take a look at it, because that is a Ferrari. I don't know if that's a virtual life.
He's trying to block.
You can see Pearson blocking the move.
And you know, that's what I was saying about helping. If that Ferrari had cleared the Pure Sims car as well, that would have enabled Porsche Sport to get the run down this straightaway. So Pure Sims have been helped. But now look at the traffic behind. There's no one really coming, Lorenzo. And taking a look at the track map, there's only one car that's going to come into consideration here, and that's a GT4 car down the Camel Straight. So these guys are going to be scrapping it out with one another now, without any lap traffic to deal with.
Yeah, there is no lap traffic to deal with. I'm trying to look at the rear chase and see if there's something coming for Jacob Tots, but it doesn't look like it. They have clear traffic, I think, on this lap alone, so they can duel it out as much as they want. Then maybe go for a reset on the next lap. I was looking at the leader. Leader is just done. Oh, actually had to cut across the track, the leader, on the bus stop for a possible incident, maneuver incident.
Let's see what's just
happened. Broke himself.
Let's see if we can pick up what's happened to Augustin Canapino. He's serving a slowdown penalty now. Deep under the brakes, very deep under the brakes, and he does a good job to make sure he doesn't barrel himself over the curbs. Could have sustained some underfloor damage as well, so a little bit of drama then for the race leaders. Back to live pictures. Let's take a look at this GT4 battle once more. Look at the run that the 718 Cayman has as compared to the 416 in front of it. Up the hill they climb then once more. It's 1/10 of a second that separates these two cars. Porsche Sport looks to try and find some momentum out of Blanchimont corner. How is this one going to work, Lorenzo?
Gagnon kind of looked a little bit scrappy on entry. That might open up for Jacob Tots on the braking. He looks for it. Doesn't have any room to work it on the entry. Stays back for another lap. And I think is that a BMW M4 right ahead of him, or a GT4? Yeah, I think it is the Relay GT3.
It is a GT3, the 102. There's also a TCR that they're going to catch. I don't think there's too many TCR cars that will be a factor in this, Lorenzo, so that will help them. You can see the polka dot 718 for R that's plunging down the hill, but again, don't necessarily think that Nicholas Johnston has too much to worry about here, and by that same regard, neither do your leaders as well.
Yeah, looking at the exit of the R Rouge chicane, that is the 102. He said that is a Wasabi Racing technology. Look at this. Look at the run of Jacob Tots. Really good run.
And you know, he's forcing the Pure Sims car to go very, very defensive. To the outside goes Toffs. Side by side, they enter the Lacombe chicane, last of the late breakers. And the 718 car sweeps around the outside and back into the race lead. It's been just over about an hour and a half since that car was last in the lead of this race. But now in control, what can Toffs do as we plunge down the hill in towards Bruxelles, Lorenzo, to try and build up a bit of a buffer here?
Yeah, Tots actually just shutting down the move on Bruxelles for Ian Gagnon Renault. Now it's on Ian Renault actually over here. What does what does he do? What does a Canadian will do or have in store for the next few laps to try to make any possible overtakes on that Porsche Sport 718?
9 minutes are left on the clock right now. 9 minutes for the Pure Sims car to try and sling a move down the inside. Where is Canapino now? Where is that number one car? Eau Rouge and Radion already. So, wow, that car will be completing, I think, 5 laps this time around to go. No, 4.
Roughly.
So 4 more laps for these two drivers. I'm doubting all of the math in my head now, Lorenzo, and that is a bad thing.
It's tricky. I'm concerned that, all right, they're both cars are done with Blanchimon, so I know the leader is not going to be able to overtake them in time, because if you try to cut 10 seconds per lap, it is not enough for a Canapino to get anywhere within Tofts and Guillaume Renault. If it is going to be really close as they open up another lap. Now, I kind of agree with you, because once he comes down in pit lane, we'll be around 7 minutes to nearly 6 minutes. So we have 4 laps left, roughly.
Roughly 4 laps. Okay, we are not going to say that is gospel, but it is what tends to be the case. By the way, we'll quickly recap some of the other podium positions as we enter these final 8 minutes of action. It is in TCR, still Full Send Racing leading by more than a lap. Impulse Racing in second. They're being chased down by Team Mad and Miguel Freitas. They are also preparing for coming back to this track in 2 weeks' time. They want that second place. Last time around, 0.6 of a second, 0.8 of a second quicker. That gap is one to watch out for in TCR. Of course, in GT4, we're watching Porsche Sport and Pure Sims Esports 1 lap clear from the rest of the field. It has been domination from these two cars in terms of pace. AXA SimSport, though, with a well-earned podium if they can hang on for the next 7 minutes. In GT3, well, 2 big names and 1 newcomer to celebrate as well. It's Williams Esports Chill Blast, SimRC, and then V3 Racing, the top 3 contenders. They're all spread by upwards of a minute. And for V3 Racing, they've got Really Sim Racing 37 seconds down the road. Their first ever appearance in a RaceBot broadcast, and what a performance for them, mixing it up with some of the best in sim racing. But Lorenzo, main focus for us now for 6 minutes. What can this Pure Sims Esports car do?
Man, I really don't know. I'm going to pose even a question to the chat for those who are watching us live here on RaceBot TV on YouTube. What do you do? If you're Ian Guillaume Renault, if you're the Canadian in the Pure Sims, what do you do now? Do you stay until the final lap and go for a move on the Lacombe chicane? It is a possible lunge and it might not work. Or you stay aggressive every single lap. Waste as much fuel and much tire as you can waste. And if necessary, at the last lap, you might have to take the throttle off and maybe rely on the leader making an extra lap.
Very defensive line under braking taken from Porsche Sport. Not the greatest in terms of getting that car slowed down. Opens the door for Gagnon Renault across the start-finish line. They come. 6 minutes left to the inside. Here comes Pure Sims. 3 wide as a Lamborghini tries to get past as well. I think Pure Sims is going to have to back out of this one. Almost contact between Porsche Sport and the 111. That's RSR by G Performance. That's going to help out the Porsche Sport car, Lorenzo, down the hill. And they're not going to have any pressure into the braking zone at the Lacombe chicane.
Yeah, RSR by G Performance, just being, I think, a little bit more aggressive than usual in Thomas Axe. So you can see the blinking of the headlights done by Gagnon Renault as he's not satisfied, but the gap has been broken out by 2 drivers, and Gagnon Renault going for the blink. He's going to get close. Not for an overtake, but I think he's going to commit on this line and try to go for a closing move and then try to ward the draft all over again. It's basically a near full reset.
Tofts is closing up to the rear end of the R4R Motorsports car. I would suspect the message is being handed over in the 04. Get out of the way. Do not interfere with this battle for the lead. Let's pick up, by the way, Agustin Canapino. Down the hill he comes, Lorenzo. Less than 5 minutes on the clock. So by my math, this is 3 laps to go.
3 laps to go in my mathematics as well. And that counts the extra lap as well, right? So
Yes.
we have 2 laps of clean racing or programmed racing. Then we have the extra lap to end this thing. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know if Pearson's might be on the field. We have no perspective whatsoever. And I'm looking at the gap between T-Mat and Impulse. That is coming quick by lap.
Well, for Team Mad, 3rd place in this championship 12 months ago when it had a few extra classes on board. Creventic takes over as title sponsors for the series. We shrink it down to GT3, GT4, and TCR, and they look to start their campaign off with not just the 3rd place finish, but potentially a 2nd place finish. Gap almost down to below 2 seconds. Let's pick up GT4 once more though, Lorenzo. 8/10 separates these 2 cars as they come down into the bus stop. It was a rather slow middle portion of the race if you ask me, but it's all burst into life here with minutes to go.
Yeah, and you can see in the lines done by Guillaume Renault try to go for a big launch into the mid portion of the bus stop, try to carry as much speed and try to tuck into the inside as best as he can without touching the curb. Because if you touch that sausage curb, you lose some speed. And again, aggressive on the braking into La Source, getting really close to Jacob Tuft's car, and they still haven't been able to overlap that R4R and Motorsport car.
Well, the lap times are fairly equal between these cars. Delta, by the way, between Tofts and Renault across the line was half a second, so Tofts was able to get a slightly better lap. He's got the advantage now from the draft in front of him as well, towing him down the Kemmel straightaway, helping him out in this battle for the race lead. Lights flashing for R4R. They're not going to fight this one too hard. Expect them to stay to the left side of the track here, Lorenzo. They get out of the way of one. They do not, though, get out of the way of the second just yet.
Yeah, they're doing the right thing. You really don't want to come into the entry of the corner and compromise both cars at the same time. So R4RM is doing the proper job. Now they backed away. Let Pure Sims go by. Let them fight it out. As we're talking, the leader just opened up another lap. Is all Rouge 2 to go.
Very, very respectful racing. Not sure what else I expected, to be honest, from R4R Motorsports. The likes of Scott and Sam Michaels that I've had the pleasure of racing against in the past. Their teammate just as courteous as well. Through the double left, what will be the second to last time for these cars. We wait for the race leader, Agustin Canapino, to come across the line for the penultimate time as well. White flag will be in the air next time around. Slight question mark around that, though, Lorenzo. Would have been if Canapino wanted to back up the pace very slightly and avoid doing that extra lap. But last time around, a 2:17.630. He's going to push these GT4 cars to fight an additional lap.
Yeah, he's going to do it. 2:18 in lap 300, 301, 218. I think he might go for a 2:18 once again because the traffic alone. He's still, I think, right around 15 seconds to the leading GT4 cars because both cars are on Blanchimont. Oh, actually, he's about 20 seconds. They're safe. Gap on TCR's lower than a second right now.
It is really, really close, and it's hard to follow along with both of these battles. My suspicion is that it's Team Mad who are in a much better position to challenge the cars in front of them at this point in time, but it is very, very close. Agustin Canapino climbs the hill for the penultimate time and will be taking the white flag this time. 40 seconds are left on the clock. There goes the GT4 leaders. They will have 2 more laps to go. They plunge down the hill then through Eau Rouge and Radion, and the pressure is on, Lorenzo.
Yeah, the pressure is on right now. Gap between both of them is 0.8 of a second. Guillaume Renault a little bit loose on the entry of the Radion into Eau Rouge, but still manages to keep the car within the track and avoid the slowdown. As there is also a battle between top 5 positions between DRE Endurance and Prism as well. So which battle do we choose? It's so many things going on in these final minutes.
The one thing that we know, Canapino down through Eau Rouge for the final time. White flag is in the air, and that means our battles do not have long to go in the Impulse versus Team Mad battle. Final lap gets underway as they cross the start-finish line, and after 11 hours and 59 minutes of absolute chaos, these 2 cars are separated by 0.4 of a second. back to the GT4s just for the time being. It's 7/10 of a second between Jacob Toss and Ian Gagnon Renault. I have a feeling, though, Toss is in control at this point, Lorenzo, with lap traffic, both in terms of TCR and the GT3s not being a huge factor. It's going to take a huge send from Renault to make this stick.
Or he needs a huge send from Renault, or he needs a third factor. You need a blocking car, a GT3 or something of the nature to actually compromise.
Here it comes. Sorry, Lorenzo.
Here
comes the move from Team Mad. They pull to the outside at the end of the Camel Straight. Through Lecombs they work. Miguel Freitas takes, I think, the smart move there. Does not commit to trying to go too wide. He will set up the move. He will try and use the lap traffic here, Lorenzo. Watch him as he tries to follow that GT3 car down the inside, I think.
There he goes. Big lunge.
Oh, and Impulse saw it coming. They made room, and just enough room. What action in this TCR category. They come through the Jackie X corner down into Pujon, and I have no idea what's going to happen in this one now.
I don't have any idea whatsoever, as both, also I'll just look back at the GT4 battle. Both cars finished the lap, and they probably going to start another one, and the Motorsport going defensive on La Source and now covering up the inside, but they're close to one another.
Here it comes, though, for Williams Esports. It's Agustin Canapino. Victory here in the first round of the Creventic Endurance Series. It was going to be a very exciting fight with the Logitech Gioltas Esports team. Unfortunate contact between them and a GT4 car effectively gives Williams Esports a nice Saturday drive to hold on to victory in this class. Let's go back, though, to the TCR battle. They climb the hill for the final time in towards Blanchimont. One more opportunity for Team Mad to try and make this one stick. There's also one final opportunity for that battle in GT4. They're braking at the end of the Camel Straight right now and heading down in towards Malmedy and Bruxelles. But we watch in TCR as Miguel Freitas looks to the outside, side by side, into the bus stop chicane. Team Mad sweeps around the outside, slightly deep though. Impulse will sweep momentum and drag race to the line. It's the 222 that will take second place in TCR. Back to the GT4s then, Lorenzo. What's happening in here?
Yeah, basically it covered up the middle portion of the track into the entry off the Lacombe section. Didn't allow Gagnon Renault to make the move. And here it comes into Pujon. I think the move, it is logical. It will come down to the bus stop. This will be amazing.
Renault needs the run then through this middle sector. This is crucial. Half the lap to go. About 3.5 kilometers determining our race victor. It's Williams Esports in GT3, Full Send Racing in TCR. We haven't even talked about them crossing the line. We will get to that because right now GT4s making their way through Campus Corner, about to start the climb up towards Blanchimont and the run into the bus stop chicane. The gap between the two cars, 0.2 of a second. Momentum on the side of Pure Sims Esports as they use the draft up the hill. They build up momentum already in excess of 220 kilometers an hour. This is going to come down all the way to the wire. Daniel Ricciardo is watching on. He wants to see the full send coming from the Pure Sims boys. They're a bit too far behind. They're not going to risk anything at this late stage. And out of the final corner, it's been 12 hours of back and forth action between Pure Sims Esports and Porsche Sport. But the 718 came and takes victory here in Spa to close off an absolute crazy race at the season opener of our 2021 Creventic Endurance Championship. Lorenzo, let's just take a breath.
Let's take a breath, please. What a race.
Also, many congratulations to the Frozen Speed Full Send Racing team as, oh, that's a bit of a miscommunication there as celebrations get underway from the circuit Spa-Francorchamps. We will take that well-deserved rest before we get into our post-race results. We will also hopefully have some post-race interviews as well live on TeamSpeak, so hopefully the drivers can head on over to ts.racebot.tv. Lorenzo, while we take this breath, some final thoughts from you.
Man, it's been a great race. I think the final has been one of the closest finals of a race that we probably had in long endurance race in 12 hours. It just shows how close a race can be in GT4s, TCRs, and also the unfortunate, we probably would have a battle in GT3s, but Williams just keep it on the track without any issues. But I think the bigger story of this race, first appearance in top split for V3 Racing, getting a P3, of course, MRC getting P2, always doing well in those long endurance races. But what a battle we have for GT4, Arjuna. The coverage was great, to be very honest.
I mean, I am... Not only have I likely lost my voice, and tomorrow, fortunately, I have no broadcast to deal with, but the first 4 hours were something. The last 4 hours were something else entirely, and we return at the end of June from the Hockenheim ring for the next round of this championship, and one that I'm expecting maybe more of the big teams to show up, Lorenzo, and maybe challenge the likes of Williams, the likes of SimRC, and the likes of Logitech G Esports as well, because GT3 cars, we know that's where the cream of the crop like to focus their attention. And I think, you know, a broadcast like this, racing like this as well, it should be some very good fun.
It should be very good fun, you know. Plus, we have no concurrent championships or private leagues, I think, happening as well, from what I remember on the calendar in terms of long races. So there might be a possibility we see, like, some other top teams coming in and fighting for at the German track, and I can't wait to see if some of these teams come and how close will be the racing at the Hockenheim circuit.
So let's take a look at the final race results. Let's make sure they're actually organized by class before we throw that up on screen. It is Agustin Canapino, the Argentine driver with experience in the real world, that takes victory for Williams Esports Chill Blast. Almost an entire lap separates them and SimRC and Hayden Burns in the Ferrari. And what a debut on RaceBot TV for V3 Racing and Owen Blythe. Podium for them, and a name to watch out for in the coming years as well. Philip Klinger for the Relay Sim Racing team in 4th position, 2 laps down, along with a whole host of cars that finished 2 laps down. Jose Lobo, Iago Rosado, Sean Campbell for Twisted Racing Yellow. He was having a good run slightly earlier in the day. And you've got the Virtual Life Experience Green RSR by G Performance, T3 Esports on the edge of the top 10. And we'll scroll through 11th through 20th. Maximilian Bailey for a second of the Virtual Life Experience cars. The Alpine Energy team, or Alpine, depending on how we decide to refer to them. Then, of course, the biggest losers in today's race, if you ask me, Logitech G Esports and the Australian-based outfit that had that incident with the GT4 car coming through the bus stop chicane. GTL VRT Red, Rottenberry Racing Red, and then a number of cars not even making it out of the opening portions of this race. Progressive Sim Racing Charlie, drive-through incoming, maybe slightly reading the future. R70 ASR Frozen Speed Full Send Racing, and then powered by 465 Garage. GT4, and look at the gap between the top two. It was domination over the rest of the field. 2/10 separates the two drivers, but it was Jacob Toft in the 718 car that took victory for Porsche Sport, beating off Pure Sims Esports, who will be back in action from this track in 2 weeks' time. The 24-hour Esports finale. Jordan Froon for AXA Simsport. Good podium for them. They finished 2 laps down. The Romanians, Zekril Esports, they finish in 4th. And then you've got DRE Endurance, Prism Sim Racing, Delta, R4R Motorsports, Ava Vavatic. And then you start getting into cars struggling a bit more. The McLarens not with the most speed as well. So Pacific Sim Motorsport Black and Sunshine's Autos, they finished 9th and 10th respectively after running out of the top 10 for most of the day. Tim Claeson's, Gilles Hubin, Valentin Play, then Justin Cady, Niels van der Halden, Antonian Titus, and then Tristan Iglesias. They round out the GT4 field. TCR, and wow, 2 laps was the gap at the end of this race. I have a feeling, though, maybe slightly caught out by the way that the overall race leader took a checkered flag, excuse me. Steam Ledger takes victory. Perfect preparation for their return to this track in 2 weeks' time for the 12 Hours of Spa in the 24H Esports Championship. Impulse Racing, they hold off the challenge from Miguel Freitas at the very end. Team Mad across the line in 3rd. Very impressive run for them as they look to continue on from their 3rd place finish in last year's championship. E41 SRT, BM Racing Team, multiple contacts for them, unfortunately as well, going up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Could have been a better day, but 5th, not too bad. Simtech across the line in 6th. Prism Sim Racing Alpha 7th, Wasabi Racing Technology finishing in 8th. 9th was Paceworks Esports, and then you've got your non-finishers starting off with Frostbite's Motorsport, 170 laps down, and then you've got GTS Racing Team, the Concord Racing, Chrome Car, and Fiercely Forward. We're still waiting to try and get some interviewees in. Remember that we are on TeamSpeak, ts.racebot.tv. We'll be hanging around for the next couple of minutes because we've got Racebot's own Paul Smith standing by. Lorenzo, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so Paul, welcome back into the broadcast booth, and podium finisher, nearly getting second place, but that was really close.
I mean, considering that we were 2 instants away from getting a drive-through penalty at the end there. It was incredible. And the drive that Miguel put in, I mean the drive that everyone put in, to be fair, today from the team was sensational. We started, 9th in class and we finished 3rd. We didn't expect that. We didn't expect to be in top split, if I'm honest. But yeah, that was brilliant. That is one that we're all proud of. Sensational stuff. We're a little bit gutted that it was 2 tenths between us and Impulse at the end there, but we couldn't risk getting any contact. And yeah, we made up.
Yeah, you guys, I think made up is an understatement, Paul, to be very honest with you, given the circumstances. But now I think you guys got basically the best data possible. Of course, you guys, Miguel and your the other teammate, which Jerwin might be doing the 24-hour series. I think they got the best data possible they wanted to.
I mean, quite frankly, at the moment, all we cared about was this race. Yeah, we'll be able to look back at this, see what worked, what didn't work, and be able to take that forward into the 24-hour series. But the whole focus right now is this, and this was just a brilliant team effort, and we truly mean that. The whole team, sort of getting behind us, behind the scenes, and everyone who joined us on my stream as well. And yeah, it was great. It was. It's not often that I'm lost for words, but right now I'm lost for words here because I can't bring into words how proud I am of the achievement we've done here today, and the way that we've all worked together and gone for that common goal. And yeah, myself, I might not be the fastest driver out there, but at the end of the day, it was that consistency that we needed, and that's what we got.
Yeah, but he did drive. All right, we often pick on driver, but he did really well given the circumstances and driving lots of laps. Paul, I think you were second, driving the second most laps, I think, apart from maybe Miguel. But anyway, now we go into Hockenheim. It's a track that we don't know how this GT3, GT4, and TCR racing goes. It's an unknown variable. What do you think the race will be over there?
That's a very good question. We don't know is the answer. We've never raced this combination at that track. A lot of practice will be needed, I think, from everybody, not just from our team, but from everybody. Because even today, even towards the end of that race, it was only just getting through to some drivers' heads that, hey, the TCR car, it might not be a good idea to go around the outside of it on Blanchimont if you're a GT3 car, because we had that plenty of time. So I think people need to learn to work together out there on track. The majority were all right. The majority were fine. It's just one or two that we marked them up, and it was like, give them a bit of space. But I think there's going to have to be a lot of cooperation at Hockenheim. Fortunately, there are a couple of there's the long sort of sweeping, I say straight, but the sweeping section towards the hairpin, and we don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Let's celebrate this one, shall we, first?
Yeah, celebrate. By the way, Paul, shout outs. I think you guys in the booth, you guys in the team deserve it.
Just everybody involved in the team. It was a team effort. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
All right, go ahead, Arjuna.
So that was RaceBot's own Paul Smith. Great podium position there for him. Let's see if we can bring in race winner in GT4. It was dramatic at the end, and I think we have Jacob Toff standing by from the 718 team. Jacob, you got a copy?
Yeah, I do.
There we go. Got concerned for a little bit. Jacob, what a race that was. Dramatic all the way till the end. I'll be honest, I thought it might be a little bit easier for you to actually close up and get the move done, but you waited until you found your opportunity, and once you took it, I mean, it was no looking back from there. It was a really fun race. How excited are you right now?
Yeah, it was a good race. As you said, I waited a while behind Ian, but for some reason I took 14 litres extra at the pit stop. It just didn't stop fueling me, so we were miles behind and we didn't take any tyres either. So by the end our tyres were pretty cooked, but we had 49 incidents, so couldn't risk anything.
I think that's a similar story for a lot of these teams. We were talking to the team Madcar, they had 48 incidents for them. Was that something that you think is going to be unique to this race out of the 4 of the races in this season? Because Hockenheim, you know, Sebring and Barcelona, incident limits not really as important and as difficult to rack up incursions as it is at a track like Spa.
Yeah, of course, Spa's a bit unique when it comes to instant points and off track. So, what's it? Hockenheim, Barcelona, and Sebring. They shouldn't be any problems, I don't think.
Well, Jacob, pole position to victory at the end. The race does not. If you actually go and look at it, it's not as simple a story as I made it sound there. What are you going to do now? Because I'm sure there's lots of adrenaline pumping through your veins, and I'm sure you've got to try and find a way to go to sleep as well at some point.
Yeah, I'm going to go straight to sleep after this. But yeah, we've got some practice to do for next round. Chris improved. Even after his first stint, compared to the last stint, he was miles better. He improved loads during a race, and we will have more time to practice for the next round, so should be even better, hopefully.
Well, Chris was very, very consistent, Jacob, and if he can find just that little bit more pace to maybe catch up to you, you guys are going to be one to watch out for. Congratulations on a very dramatic victory, and looking forward to seeing you at the end of June as we head to Hockenheim.
Yeah, thanks.
So that is Jacob Toffs. Let's see, Lorenzo, if we can bring in, I think we have Ian Gagnon-Renault standing by. Lorenzo, why don't you take it away?
All right, we got Ian. You can hear us?
Yes.
All right, you got. So Ian, I think cutting it close is an understatement for this battle we had. Just take us through what were your thoughts after being overtaken and kind of had to reset and work through the traffic and being, I think, with a faster pit stop and lighter fuel, I think, comparison to the Jacob Toff's car.
Well, I think having taken tires would help us, but when I saw that he took more fuel than us, was okay, this is maybe possible, because I knew he had pace on me. But yeah, I think the traffic didn't really help me. The GT3 cars diving down the inside when I was trying to make a move on Jacob, and when I hit the GT3 car as well, late dive, I think didn't help me. But anyway, it was a very, very good race. That was a lot of fun. I never had that close a race in a 12-hour race. So yeah, hats up to them. I think we were both on 49X at the end, so it was, I mean, it was an insane race.
Yeah, I think insane. It has to be the proper word for this. And you guys were one of the teams that had multiple cars. You guys were competing in another league. So how it is the organization to the team to try to put multiple cars in the grid?
Well, I guess you're talking about Neo. I think this was just for practicing. For us, was mainly for practicing for Neo in 2 weeks. So that was the perfect opportunity, and I think with the team that we were fighting, that was the perfect practice that we could wish for. So I guess now we're just really prepared for what's coming in 2 weeks. and we got the data to work on it and see where we could get better for the next race.
Very game, man. Anybody want to give a shout out before we let you go, Ian, and celebrate this well-earned P2?
Yep. Well, I just want to thank Ash for the 12 hour, as well as Matt for when we're going to drive Neo, because we're working on the cars, and also William for the beautiful setup that he made for this race, and for sure all the guide person who supports us during those kind of events.
All right, fair game, Ian. I hope to see you guys back again for Hockenheim, and well done. Back to you, Arjuna.
That was second place finisher. Dramatic end to the race here from the circuit Spa-Francorchamps. Before we say goodbye, now let's take one more look at this series schedule, Lorenzo, and just remind everyone, we'll be back at the end of June, a couple of months off before we return for round 2 of this championship. 12 hours of action from the Hockenheim ring. Then the end of August, we'll head to the circuit Barcelona, Catalunya, to the Spanish circuit there. Continue our trip westwards to the Sebring International Raceway to conclude this championship. And if these 3 races are going to be anything like what we saw today, it is going to be a roller coaster ride, to say the very least.
To put it mildly, it will be a roller coaster, especially Hockenheim and Secure the Catalunya, because of those very tricky sections, specifically the arena for Hockenheim, which is basically sector 3, all the way down into turn number 1, and the second half of Catalunya is just a nail biter for some of the cars. It's so tricky for you to overtake, especially in the final 4 corners where it is basically 90-degree turns and everything can happen in there. And then we go to Sebring. The bumpiness is just something very cool to see.
It's going to be a wild and entertaining ride, and you can catch it all live on RaceSpot TV. So just a reminder, head on over to all of our social medias and to follow us for some more sim racing action. If you're not already subscribed to the RaceSpot TV YouTube page, hit that red button and the bell next to it to get notified every single time we go live with the great sim racing series we get to cover. If you want to join us on Discord, head on over to racespot.wtf/Discord, and you can engage with us and our great team of commentators and producers. For now, though, it's time to say goodbye. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, and I've been joined by the wonderful Lorenzo Bonder for the last 4 hours. Other commentators on today's broadcast include RaceSpot's CEO, Will Vincent, making a return to the broadcast booth. Great to have Will back out on some endurance coverage. He was alongside Peter Mackay. Sommel Aurora took part in the first 4 hours, and Tyler Maxon, our veteran producer, all 8 hours, the first 8 hours of the race, he did all by himself. We'll see you then for more coverage on RaceSpot TV tomorrow. For now, so long and enjoy the rest of your weekend.